We've been contacted by people throughout Britain desperate to have their family mysteries resolved by our team. Families are flocking here today to fill in the missing puzzle pieces from their ancestors' lives.
Trying to find out a bit more about my dad's Irish ancestors and the potential Italian root we have somewhere.
Information about my maternal great-grandmother.
Right.
She used to perform on the music halls, and it's believed that she went off with her agent.
Right.
And had 2 more sons.
Cracking the puzzles are our experts, ancestry genealogist Brad Argent.
Definitely have that map of somebody who's got some English ancestry and something else.
Historian and writer Tessa Dunlop.
As far as your family are concerned, Minnie's biological father wasn't the one that's legally down there as her father.
But first, historian and law lecturer Onyeka Nubia is helping Londoner Jonathan Stern. He wants to know why his Jewish family observed a traditional 7-day funeral ritual for a man who never died.
I very much believe that history is part of today, so looking at my own history explains how I came to be here today. I'm Jonathan Stern, I'm always known as John T. I was born in London. I've been doing research into the family tree for a couple of years. I absolutely love history. Well, many years ago, my mother and father went to my Jewish grandparents for dinner. While they were there, the topic of my great-grandfather, Simon Stern, came up, so my father's grandfather. And during the course of that dinner, my father said what a sad thing it was that his grandfather had died at such a young age, he was only in his 40s, which was the story he'd always been told. My great-aunt said, "Don't you believe it, honey? We saw him out in America." So it turned out he'd lived for many years longer. He'd abandoned the family. And in the Jewish religion, that's a really shocking thing to do. So as far as they were concerned, he was dead. And they sat shiva for him, which is what Jewish people do when somebody dies. Abandoning the family, it was such a shocking thing. As far as they were concerned, he'd passed away. I don't know why he left the family here. Maybe he just had a breakdown and couldn't cope with a large family and all the children and just thought, right, that's it, I'm off. It's possible he was chasing the American dream. It's very difficult to know. I think if we found the answer to this, my father would be very happy. It's something I'd very much like to do, because I know it would have meant a great deal to him. And from wherever it is he is, wherever it is we go after this world, I'm sure we'll be able to see all of this going on.
John T.
Hello,
how are you?
Fine, thank you.
It's your father's grandfather?
That's right, yes, it is.
Right. This is your family tree. This is the elusive great-grandfather, Simon Stern.
He lived a long time. Yeah, a lot later than we were told.
We also know that he was probably born in Poland.
Yes.
And so came to this country. So, John T., in the 1891 census, he's placed as living in Woodford, Essex. And it shows that he was married to Sarah Stiglitz.
Right.
Your great-grandmother. He had 4 children, and then later, another child. Now, there is a further census of 1911, and in that census, Simon is missing. The reason why Simon doesn't appear is because he left the UK aboard a ship called the SS St. Louis.
Wow. So you got the actual name of the ship?
SS St. Louis.
SS St. Louis.
Which was bound for New York. What was he looking for in America?
I don't know. Did he already have a lady here, or did he find one there?
What was he? Good question. Perhaps it's the American dream. Would you blame him?
I wouldn't if he was single.
If you found his gravestone, would you lay a flower there?
Yes.
Would you sat Shiva for him again?
Probably. You can't really blame people in the past for living in a world that's so different from ours.
This is the passenger list. Your great-grandfather's name is on it. He arrived on the 4th of June. This is a petition for naturalization from New Jersey. The interesting thing about American naturalization, say from 1900 to the 1930s, is that Americans were taking people based on a quota-based system. Poland has a quota. But a British quota was a larger quota. So if you were coming from Britain, you were more likely to get in. Your great-grandfather, because he was now British, would fit that quota.
So he left Poland always intending to go to America, and Britain was a stopover?
We don't know for sure. But it made it easier for him because he was coming from Britain. In those naturalization papers, he had changed his name to George Simon Stern. And on the 7th of January, 1914, he married Ruby Weinstein in Newark, New Jersey. These are a copy of her naturalization papers, clearly stating that she was born in Poland. Not far.
Oh. Not far from where he came from. Goodness. So did he definitely know her already? Or it seems likely? So that was always the plan?
It's very possible.
That's just incredible.
She came to New York less than a year after Simon. How do you feel about that?
I must say I'm liking him less as the proceedings are going on.
But he did visit this country on the 18th of September, 1932. This is a copy of the passenger list. See his age there, 63.
So it's not very long before he passed away?
Not very long.
Maybe he wanted to see everybody for one last time?
But the community had already sat Shiva for him.
They had. That must have been very weird for everybody.
Everybody had said that he was now dead.
Maybe he didn't care about things like that. Who knows what was going on through his mind?
Now you do know things that you did not know already.
Tons, yeah.
I hope that what we've talked about has helped to provide closure.
Absolutely.
For your whole family, your father and you.
Yeah, because he did a lot of work towards this. It's wonderful you've been able to complete what he started. I'm terribly grateful. It's absolutely amazing.
We're grateful that you shared your family history with us.
It's been brilliant. Thank you so much. I'm wanting to like my great-grandfather, but the more I heard about him, the more I didn't like him. The idea that he'd almost certainly planned the whole thing before he even got to Britain, and then got married and then had all those children, and he was always intending to, by the looks of it, to go to America. It's difficult to feel positively about somebody doing that, but on the other hand, he's still my great-granddad, so I don't know. Yeah, I think there are some things in my mind I'll need to resolve as I think about it.
A bittersweet end to Jonathan Stern's search for the truth. Next up, we're delving back to life in Britain during World War I. It was an unsettling place for families. As men went off to war, women felt the loneliness and fear of being left behind. It's not surprising then that many wives sought comfort in their husband's absence. Ros Cartledge has heard a family story that connects her ancestor to a visiting Canadian soldier.
The person I'm interested in is my great-granddad. I was told from a young age that my mum's granddad was a Canadian soldier in World War I. My name's Ros. I was born in Lambeth and I've lived in Alberton for most of my life. It was World War I. The Canadian soldiers came over to do the jobs of the men that had gone out to fight the war. My great-grandmother, Bertha, was married to English soldier in World War I, but she had an affair with this Canadian soldier and fell pregnant with my Nan Minnie. When my great-grandmother Bertha's real husband, Joe, came back from World War I, he was happy for her to still be his wife, but he wasn't bringing up another man's child. So Bertha gave my Nan Minnie to her older sister, Mariah. And when my grandmother Minnie was 13, she overheard who she thought were her two sisters actually saying that she wasn't their sister. It really upset her. I'm really keen to find out who my great-granddad was. My mum told me that his name was Charlie Weston, and that's when I thought, can I find him?
Ros Cartledge, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I sense there's, even for you, 2 generations removed from your grandmother Minnie, a bit of pain around this problem.
I was very fond of her, and I felt she went through a lot. She was a very strong, hard woman, but to, realise that who you thought was your mum must have been a terrible shock being a teenager. It did make her go off the rails a bit. So,
did it? She was a wild child,
She was a wild child. She was a wild, even when she was older. She was a rebel. Yes.
So, a fun granny to have.
She was.
Let's have a look at your family tree, if we may. So here you are, Ros, or Rosalind.
Yes.
Going up through your maternal line, Jean Mary Palmer, your grandmother, Minnie Julia Pullen. And, of course, the question is, here we have Bertha, but who was the father of Minnie? Let's now look at Minnie's birth certificate. According to the documents, name and surname of father, John James New.
No, I've never seen that before.
Well, there you are.
That's a shock, because now everyone's kept that a secret. I don't know why. Why would they keep it a secret?
Well, because sometimes things that are written down don't necessarily represent what happened behind closed doors. We know that John New married your great-grandmother in 1910. They have 3 children before the wars, and this is Minnie, a 4th child. He was an electrical engineer, and he joined the RAF and went to war in 1914. In the outbreak of the war, he's up and at it. Okay, volunteers. He's still with the military at the end of the war. As far as your family are concerned, Minnie's biological father wasn't the one that's legally down there as her father.
Well, that's what the story was. Yeah.
And that's what your grandmother said, and that's what your mother said.
My grandmother never ever spoke about it. She was old-fashioned, stiff upper lip, don't talk about things.
So let's look and see if there's a possibility the father could be somebody else. You mentioned a Charlie Weston.
Yes.
I think you said there was a rumour that he was Canadian.
Yeah, Canadian soldier.
A Canadian soldier.
And he went back after the war.
Now, the Canadians had a cracking World War I record, depending on your perspective, of course, but they were a very significant military force. They were one of the British Empire's dominions. Because they were under British foreign policy at the time, they had to engage in the war.
Yes.
And they established the Canadian Expeditionary Force, the CEF. Okay. Now, there are several Charlie Westons of different spellings attached to that force.
Okay.
We have gone through all the possibilities, bearing in mind where Bertha Mann was in London. So we need our Charlie Weston to be with the Canadian Expeditionary Force and to be in Britain. We found one man who we think may fit the bill. Actually born in the UK, but actually enlists not in Canada, but in Seattle in May 1918. So he's in America, but he enlists with the Canadian Expeditionary Force. And we have his next of kin, his mother, placing her in London, less than 2 miles away from where Bertha Mann was.
So that could make sense.
If he's only signed up in May 1918, the likelihood is he isn't going to be sent straight out to the front, and he's in Britain in a holding capacity, in an operation or an administrative capacity. He could have therefore crossed paths with Bertha Mann. They weren't very far away from each other in London.
Makes sense.
And he was also there in the crucial period when conception must have taken place.
Yes.
Because we know the baby was born in August 1919. So I think this may be the Charlie Weston. We cannot say 100% definitively. Let's find out what happens to him. So he's actually discharged for misconduct from the Canadian Expeditionary Force, I'm afraid. And he goes to Canada. Here's the Canadian passenger list going to Halifax, Nova Scotia. So that's him heading out of Britain. So whether or not he knocked up Bertha, we can't prove, but we do know that he was an absent dad if he did.
Yes, definitely.
What are your thoughts towards Bertha as the wife back home to be canoodling with another? Yeah, that would have brought great disrespect, dishonour, if you like, on Bertha.
Yeah. That's why perhaps it was she kept it a secret, so my nan was brought up as her sisters till she was a teenager and found out. But I felt sorry for Bertha because she didn't want to give her up.
This isn't quite the end of Bertha's story.
Okay.
The plot thickens somewhat.
Doesn't surprise me.
Because, in fact, her family didn't only consist of 4 children. I mentioned there were 3 born before the war.
Yeah.
And then there was 1 Minnie born in 1919. In fact, there was a 5th child born in 1916. I'm going to show you the registration of births. Victor Stanley Mann, going on to Bertha's name there, interestingly, but that might be because John New was away on the front line serving. Well, he wasn't there to legally sign the birth certificate.
No,
But looking at his service record and when he had leave and so forth, unless that baby was prematurely born at 27 weeks, and assuming he had a normalish birth and a 9-month incubation, John couldn't have been the father.
Was it the same man?
It couldn't have been Charlie Weston.
Okay.
Because we know that he didn't come to England until 1918.
Okay,
So Bertha was a busy girl.
She was a bit. My nan took after Bertha.
Let's forgive Bertha.
Yeah.
But now let's focus on the little Victor, who did die. 1920, you can see here he is up at the top. This is a register of burials. Victor Stanley New. By now he's got John's surname. Yeah. Bertha probably pulled that one past John, to be honest. She could have fudged when he was born, especially if John was away.
She kept him then.
And he dies aged 3 1/2.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah.
And she's already grappling with the newborn Minnie when she loses her son, and she's got fallout in her marriage at the same time. So this is a really difficult period for Bertha.
Yeah, he did.
A nightmare.
Yeah,
she did. She had a tough life.
Yeah.
In those days, there was a very strict moral code. And if you did go off track, then you suffered in silence.
Yep.
And that suffering often meant relinquishing a child if you were a woman.
Definitely, to save face, yeah. It's a bit of a surprise, but it makes sense. The pieces are fitting together, so thank you very much. I'm a little bit shocked, surprised, to hear what my great-grandmother Bertha, that she actually had a second affair, which was a total shock to me. And she had a little boy, and he didn't live to 4. That was sad. I've been looking for Charlie for about 4 years now, and this puts my mind at rest now. I know I can stop looking, stop searching, and we can finally put his name on the tree. I'd like to find out more about him as well, so.
Ros came here looking for Charlie Weston, Minnie's real father, but she also leaves with a story of little Victor. Sad tales born out of the war, but a positive conclusion for Ros. Now, when we think of prisoner of war camps, we often think of harsh confinement, inhumane conditions, even oppression. But Anthony Ginman has a story about his ancestor that suggests something radically different.
I'm here today to find out about my great-great-great-grandfather, Francis Goodrum, who fought in the Napoleonic Wars. Francis was captured whilst on a ship that foundered off the French coast, sailing from Dublin to London. He ended up in a prisoner of war camp at Valenciennes in France, and eventually he married a local girl and had 3 children whilst an inmate in the camp. I'm feeling really excited about being here and finding out more about Francis Goodrum and finding out more about his history and where my ancestry comes from.
Hello, Anthony.
Hello.
Really nice to meet you. So first of all, the name of your ancestor was Francis Goodrum.
Francis Goodrum.
Right.
Yes.
And where was he from?
He came from a little place near Diss in Norfolk.
Wonderful. And you think that he played a part in the Napoleonic Wars?
Yes, yes.
Do you know anything about those wars?
Not a huge amount.
Napoleon was at first a revolutionary before he became an emperor. And then he decided that he would master all of Europe.
Right.
Which included Britain and even Russia, and fought a number of conflicts, including in 1805, the Battle of Trafalgar. Regiments from Norfolk, from other places throughout Britain, were fighting continuously from 1805 all the way up to the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. I want you to have a look now at this image on screen.
I can see myself there, yes, and I can see Francis Goodrum there. I was interested in, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Emily there.
I think it's Emile.
My 3 times great-grandmother.
But before that, we want to explore what happened to your ancestor, Francis Goodrum, and what his connection was to those great events, the Napoleonic Wars.
Right.
This is a document written in classical French.
OK.
It talks about how your ancestor was a prisoner of war. He was part of a regiment called the 9th Regiment of Foot.
Right.
This was a Norfolk regiment.
OK, that fits.
Raised with local Norfolk people. This regiment had been called effectively to fight in the Napoleonic conflict.
Right.
But ran aground, and they ended up in France. And when they were caught, all 262 of them, and put in a prison, they would have been together. Now, a British prisoner of war was a very valuable person.
OK.
Because there were over 20,000 Frenchmen who were being held captive in Britain and being ransomed. And the ransom was 3 French soldiers for each British soldier.
Oh, right, so they were quite valuable. Wow, that's incredible.
And this is a very unusual document because it's a dispensation that's been granted in a legal French court that enables Goodrum to marry this French national during a time of war.
Right. So it is very unusual.
It's extremely unusual.
OK.
In this document, Francis had to swear that he would have no contact with Britain.
Oh, right.
So we see that Francis Goodrum was very determined to get married against the odds.
Yes.
At the time when they got married, they already had a child.
Oh, right. So a necessity.
The child had been born on the 19th of May, 1809.
Right, OK.
Before the marriage took place. And he's gone on to have another 2 children whilst he's still a prisoner of war.
So there's a great deal of freedom going on.
A great deal of freedom going on there. So later on, they had another 3 children.
Oh, right, yes.
So those children born 1817, 1821, 1823.
Right, yes.
He managed to get entrance back into Britain after the war.
OK.
He's very careful to come back after 1815. This is what we call a record of death. We don't often get them. Usually it's burial record, but this is actually a record of death.
Francis Goodrum at the Royal Hospital.
And the reason for his death is asthma.
OK. Yeah, not in injury.
Sometimes people in those days would perceive asthma as malingering.
OK.
There wasn't that knowledge to understand what asthma was, which meant that for him, soldiering would have been a very difficult affair.
Right.
The whole of his soldier would have been difficult to do the ordinary work that ordinary soldiers do.
Right.
So he would have laboured. So we could see perhaps a reason why, if he was suffering from asthma throughout his life, why he'd be reluctant to do that soldiering.
OK, yes. Oh, yeah, yes, that's interesting. He would have possibly suffered while he was serving.
Emily lived longer than Francis did.
Right.
And she spent the rest of her life here in England. This is the place in Islington where she died.
Oh, right.
Thomas Charterhouse in Islington. Yeah, so it was a hospital and almshouse for those who were not very wealthy.
Right.
And she died on the 16th of February, 1853. She was 69. And if you note that they've recorded her name as Emily.
Emily.
Because they couldn't pronounce the Amélie.
So they've anglicised it.
Yeah, they've anglicised it, as you yourself did. Yes. How does it feel now to see this record as a...
Well, that's amazing. I had no idea that that was the case, and that it's amazing she lived so much longer than Francis did.
So I hope that, in a sense, provides clarity more to your ancestral background.
It certainly throws a lot more light on the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed.
That's great.
That's brilliant, thank you.
So, Tony, what did you learn?
Quite a lot. Found out that I've got French ancestry along one line, and goes way back into the midst of time in France.
Did you know you were French?
No.
No idea?
No.
Came from nowhere?
I had an idea. There was a bit of French or maybe a bit of Belgium there somewhere, but this is a revelation. And there's been a number of facts and pieces of information which have, been a great surprise to me.
You could make a film out of this, couldn't you?
Yes, there's definitely a sort of, I don't know, a Dr. Zhivago moment there, maybe.
And now you're partly French.
Yes.
Does that change the way you feel about yourself, or what you're going to do next, what you're going to research next, how you think about your family?
I don't know. Yes, I mean, I haven't really thought about it at the moment, but it certainly gives you a different, more international feeling about your ancestry and where you come from.
Yeah, mais oui.
Yeah.
Can you speak French?
No.
Oh, you better start learning.
Better start.
So some French lessons for Tony now that Onyeka has solved the riddle of his ancestor, Francis. And of course, even more French names to add to his family tree. Still to come, one man's childhood that left him feeling like an outsider.
There was always something there that wasn't quite right.
The Easter Rising of 1916 was an attempt by Irish nationalist rebels to overthrow the governing rule of the British. It was mainly staged in Dublin, but had ripples throughout the island. Englishman Tony Mercer has heard a family rumour that he's connected to the rebellion. Onyeka Nubia is handling the case.
Hello. How are you? Great to meet you. Good. So you have a question?
I've got an ancestor I don't know much about. My grandfather, Patrick Murphy.
OK.
He's an Irishman born in County Cork in the south of Ireland in the late 1890s.
And what do you think this Patrick Murphy did?
From anecdotal stuff that I've had from various old family members, he was one of about 11 or 12 children. Most of the rest became priests. He joined, apparently, the IRA and was involved in the post office siege in 1916.
Right.
I was then told that he was captured, taken to North Wales, to the Frongoch camp, and later transferred to the British Army because prisoners were allowed to leave the camp if they signed in to the army. That was what I was told. And he joined the tank regiment.
So you believe that your ancestor, Patrick Murphy, was in the IRA and then became a member of the British Army?
Along with many others
many
who were
others.
captured, yeah.
Yes.
Well, this is Patrick, my grandfather, and I found on one of the Irish military sites a photograph of some prisoners at the Frongoch camp in North Wales.
Right.
And looking at them, looking at the date and looking at this picture and the facial features,
yes,
I thought the guy who was the fourth along, the little one in the top row, looked similar to what possibly he would. It's clutching at straws.
We have found 155 different Patrick Murphys in the records, but we don't believe that they're related to the one that you're referring to. In that photograph, it shows a Patrick Murphy with a pin in his lapel. Now, this pin is a silver war badge given to military personnel who had honourably discharged from service, perhaps through injury or illness. This Patrick Murphy enlisted on the 10th of January 1916 and was discharged later that year on the 28th of November 1916, same year. If this man was your ancestor, the suspicion about him participating in the Easter Rising would be incorrect because he just wasn't there at that time.
What a shame. It's the fact, and that's the important thing. At least it nails it.
Yes.
So that's pretty good.
I'm sorry to
thank you for all your work.
So Tony's ancestor, Patrick Murphy, couldn't have played a part in the Easter Rising, as he wasn't even in Ireland at the time. Next up, DNA expert Brad Argent is hoping to bring resolution to a family story that's affected one man throughout his entire life. John Jarrett's parents both played a vital role in keeping food production alive during World War II. He knows that his mother worked as a hop picker in a local farm, but having endured a childhood dogged by whispers and rumours, he's now left with a question mark over whether the man who brought him up is his biological father.
Well, I'm John. I was born in Robertsbridge, which is in Sussex. And I was brought up on a farm.
My name's Nicola, I'm John's daughter, and I come from Hastings.
This is where we used to live. That's going back a long time. That was our bedroom at the top, in the middle there. Myself and my brother used to sleep in there. And as time went on, I moved down to a bedroom downstairs when everybody else moved away. So it was only me left there with my mum and dad. Well, as I called them, mum and dad. I suppose from an early age, probably from 7 upwards, something wasn't right somewhere in my family. There were 4 of us at home, 2 older sisters than me and an older brother. And I always felt the rejected one. When I got to travelling to the village and going to school, there were stories that I heard that I wasn't a true Englishman and that my mother had misbehaved, but I shut it out. My second sister, she's since passed, and in an argument we were having indoors, she bluntly came out that I wasn't one of the family. A little while after, my sister had poked this in my ear, and I said to my dad, "Is there any truth in this story?" And he thought for a little while and looked straight at me and said, "What do you think?" Things were left like that. Nobody wanted to answer questions. I've talked to my daughters and they've done a DNA test. And apparently, according to the DNA test, I am half Italian.
It's been 71 years that this secret's been hidden away. We'd like to know if we have got Italian heritage. There's a few things that have kind of added up through the years. People's ability to tan quite easily, which the rest of the family hasn't got. We even had a joke with my mum that we could all eat a massive bowl of pasta, but she can't.
We're in the process of hoping through this we can find out who my biological parents are, or parent is. Yeah, it could be a big can of worms, so we'll have to use small hooks and see what we can come up with. And I'm looking forward to it.
John, Nicola, welcome. It's a fascinating story.
I hope so. I really do.
How does it make you feel?
A little bit apprehensive. I'm not sure what I'm going to find. I hope it's good news, not bad. Just so I've got something to pass on to my children and the grandchildren.
Did you feel like you belonged in the family?
Not to that extent, no. It felt strange. There was always an atmosphere which is hard to describe. But there was always something there that wasn't quite right. Families argue. You pick up senses from the arguments. So in the end, I switched everything off. I can't remember a great much of my childhood. It's just shut down. I don't want to go back to that. I'm going forward. So now I look forward to see what's going to happen.
I just want to pull up your DNA results. Now, this is what's really interesting about those. And we were talking about your big chunk here.
Yep.
Southern Italy and the Middle East and a little bit from
Scandinavia, yeah.
So you definitely have that map of somebody who's got some English ancestry and something else. The man who raised you might have been Italian and never known. Well, you didn't know until you took a test.
No.
So you might have got your Italian DNA from your dad. He might have been adopted and not known it. He might have had a different biological father and not known it. So the way that we get around that is we test a sibling, right? In this case, we test a sister.
Our sister.
Sister.
Yes.
Doreen.
Oh, interesting.
So, John, these are Doreen's results. And it's pretty obvious just from looking at the ethnicity estimate, half Great Britain. A little bit of Europe South, which is not that surprising.
Yeah. See those?
She's quite different.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And when we look closer at the DNA, you and Doreen have a different father. Now, you kind of suspected that.
Yeah, I did, yes, yeah.
But what does it feel like to get the confirmation of that?
She's still my sister.
Nicola, I'm interested in understanding how you reacted to this, because this is your dad's story, sure, but this is part of the puzzle of you.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
It's got to be nice to just put an end result to it in one way or another, instead of still wondering about bits and pieces. Hearing bits and pieces that he went through when he was little is quite horrendous, really, because of the rumours and things. But yeah, it just kind of confirmed things.
Before we went through this process, you thought, this is Mum and Dad, right? And they're actually quite English, aren't they? But now this result's come back, and there's a question mark, and it's Italian.
Yeah.
So we have to start thinking about, OK, how might that situation have come about? You were born, what, 45, February 45? What do you know about that time period?
The war was obviously going on.
Yeah, it was coming towards the end of the war in that period.
They had all this work to do.
Yeah.
And all the men at war or working towards the war effort, but they still needed to farm.
Yeah, they still needed to farm done. They were still supplying fruit, veg, food, whichever way you want to put it.
There were two ways they could do that, right? They had this women's land army, right, that contributed enormously. But then, come 1943, when the Italians surrender, they have all these Italian prisoners of war, about 43,000 men. So now we start to get a sense of, OK, that's how they might be in the area. So this is the Italian prisoners of war and the land girls.
During World War II, Britain's workforce was heavily depleted, with men heading off to serve their country. To keep the home fires burning and the nation fed was crucial. A lot of Britain's food, which had been imported before the war, was now growing scarce. Two distinctly different new armies would plug the gap: foreign prisoners of war and the Women's Land Army. During and after the Second World War, 400,000 German and 154,000 Italian prisoners of war were held here in Britain.
The crew of one of the Duce's submarines landed at a Scottish port on their way to an internment camp. Mussolini had told them that they were winning the war, hence their confident, happy smiles.
Britain viewed the Italian prisoners as less of a threat than the Germans and let them leave the camps during the day to earn a wage working the land. And work, of course, alongside the land girls. The Women's Land Army was reinstated in 1939, having been disbanded at the end of World War I. 80,000 women who'd previously stayed at home or worked in offices answered the call and took to the outdoors. Many who did found themselves working with men from far afield. Friendships and more were grown in the fields and farms of Britain. Many married, many had babies, and of course, many had babies but never married.
Kind of puts it into context, doesn't it?
It's there, isn't it? Can't argue with that.
What you see happening is you do see, women having relationships with these prisoners of war. What we think is the most likely outcome, half of who you are, is that it's an Italian prisoner of war, most likely from the southern parts of Italy.
Yeah.
Now you've taken the DNA sample.
I have, yeah.
And it's in the DNA network.
Yeah.
At some point, you'll get a match with someone, and it'll be a close match. And they'll have a lot of Italian ethnicity.
Yeah.
And that match will lead you to your biological father and the other half of the puzzle.
Yeah.
That is John.
This would be nice. So we wait and see. You shook the bag.
Well, look, thank you both. And like all journeys down genealogy...
Yeah, they're all stepping stones.
Yeah. There isn't a destination, all right? There's just a waypoint on a journey to somewhere else. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for all you've done. We're getting closer to what we were trying to find out. So hopefully somebody will come through with DNA and it'll match it and we will know.
No, it's just nice to know that what you thought was true is true.
Yeah.
So it puts your mind to rest a little bit so you're not still wondering.
Someone will probably come through with DNA that will match with mine, albeit male, female, whichever. And perhaps we can follow the story through from then.
It's been a long journey.
Yes, it has, yeah.
It's been quite interesting.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's brought us all closer together as a little family unit.
Just little answers coming through
Yeah.
that are coming up positive. We wait for the big one.
Might see.
We're at King's Western House in Bristol, a historic manor house in Somerset where people from all over the UK have been gathering, eager to have their questions answered. They're hoping our experts can help them solve their burning family mysteries.
My great-grandfather was Robert Hitchens, who was one of the 6 quartermasters on Titanic. He was at the helm when it hit the iceberg. So just want to find out what his life was before the Titanic.
To help them discover the answers to some of their questions, our team of specialists. Writer and historian Tessa Dunlop.
So what leads you to believe that you are related to the royal family's commoner?
Ancestry genealogist Brad Argent.
Here in this tiny little dot in the Indian Ocean is this collection. All the enslaved peoples of the world were there.
Wow. But first, historian and law lecturer Onyeka Nubia meets a woman who thinks she may have a royal thread running through the family.
Now, we all love a royal connection, and EastEnder Dawn Conway is no exception. She wants to find out if her ancestors are in any way connected to Edward VII.
My name is Dawn Conway. I live in East London, but I believe my ancestors are originally from France. Many, many years ago, my granddad sort of said, you know, you're from a Huguenot background. Your family had come over from France. They were fleeing persecution. They'd come to London to make the silk for all the people of London. I knew the last name was Doré. My granddad told me that George Doré had made silk for Edward VII and that he was a part of the family. My granddad was a bit of a joker, so I always took it with a pinch of salt. It would be really interesting to kind of find out if that's true. It would be like an amazing achievement for our ancestors coming from East End.
Hello, Dawn.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Sometimes, obviously, when we look at history, we try and find people in history that are memorable, and we like to attach ourselves to those people in history.
Right.
And believe that somebody famous is connected to us. But if it was true that George Doré was your ancestor, how would it change your perspective?
I don't think it would change my perspective. Obviously, it would give me clarity of where I've come from and what our ancestors used to do. But I would just like to know if we have that Huguenot link.
This is a photograph of George Doré
Okay.
at work as a silk weaver. So you may not have seen the coronation of Edward VII.
No.
This coronation happened in 1902. It was Edward VII's coronation when he succeeded his mother, Queen Victoria. Coronations are not just about crowning of a king. Britain at this time was the most powerful empire in the world. The monarch was head of that empire. Coronations were about solidifying that position. What the king wore was fundamentally important.
Right.
And who had made that was also fundamentally important. Not just anybody gets to make a coronation robe. It has to, in fact, be the best person, perhaps in the world, that can make that particular costume or that particular clothing.
Right.
So George Dorey was chosen to make those robes.
Right.
What we have to figure out is if you are connected to George Dorey. Because if you are, then you are also connected to this.
Oh, my gosh.
Not only did he make the robes for Edward VII, but he also made the robes for Queen Alexandra.
Oh, my gosh. Am I part of that history?
Well, silk weaving was a very professional and particular skill. The Huguenots that came from France were Protestant minority. They were an oppressed minority.
Yes.
Therefore, they took up a trade that nobody else could do. And they did it better. They were invited here and came here and had this skill, this trade, in advance of anybody else that was here. They were often persecuted.
Were they being persecuted in this country as well?
They were being persecuted in this country too, from the 16th century all the way through.
Right. OK.
In fact, there were riots called the Strangers' Riots, where Huguenots were deliberately picked on,
Oh, wow.
beaten up, attacked, and even killed, simply for being Huguenot.
Oh, that's really sad.
And then some members of that class became successful. And over generations, they became respected. And George Dorey was one of them.
Right.
Now, this coronation robe that you see has over 763 million threads in it.
Wow.
Now, bear in mind that he's weaving this by hand.
Really, really amazing.
So this is your family tree, but it's an extended version of it. Your great-great-grandmother, Cecilia Ann Dorey, was born in 1846. This is a 19th century baptism record for Cheshunt, which shows Cecilia Ann Dorey, your great-great-grandmother, showing her father and her mother,
Right.
Henry and Anne Dorey. It says their profession of the father, the silk weaver,
Yeah.
and it's dated 1846.
Right. So I can't be related to George Dorey.
You give up too easily.
Really? Is it his brother?
So this is a marriage record
Yes.
for Henry Dorey
Yeah.
and Anne Martin.
Yes.
He was a silk weaver. His father, John Dorey, was also a silk weaver.
Right.
And they lived in Bethnal Green in East London, near where you live now.
Right.
So now we have, Dawn, 2 generations of silk weavers.
They obviously went into the profession.
It's a family business.
Yes. But is George part of that family?
Well, silk weaving is a very particular profession. It was particular to the Huguenots.
Yes.
They stayed around Bethnal Green, Bow, Spitalfields and Whitechapel.
OK.
And their generation stayed there. So Spitalfields became known as Weaver Town because of what they did. Now, Henry Dorey, your great-great-great-grandfather, came from that tradition.
And that's amazing.
That's part of your history.
Yeah.
What we now have to work out is if you're connected to George Dorey.
Right.
So, Onyeka has revealed Dawn is related to the silk-weaving Doreys. But later we'll discover if that family also includes the royal robe maker.
Is this the George Dorey, or is it just completely different George Dorey?
The tiny island of Mauritius in the Indian Ocean was a major hub in the slave trade and the last British colony to abolish it. Jack Frederick Winston from Bristol, itself a major player in the slave trade, thinks he might be descended from the island and from slaves themselves.
Jack Winstone, and I'm originally from Kent, and I've been living in Bristol for nearly 10 years. My middle name is Frederick, and that's after my grandfather, Luke Frank Andre Frederick, who was from Mauritius. I don't really know that much about my grandfather before he came to England, as he married my grandmother in September '53, and I would like to find out if he was actually descended from slaves from Madagascar. There were no indigenous population in Mauritius. There were attempted colonisers, but it wasn't really successful until the French took over, and they brought over people from Madagascar, Mozambique, Tanzania, the east coast of Africa. In the past year or so, my mother and I tested our DNA, and we came out with a significant amount of Asian DNA, which I wasn't expecting. I'm the eldest of 9, and it's kind of fallen on me to do the research. On my family tree, I'm 1 generation away from the abolition of slavery. I just want to find out if he was from slaves and roughly whereabouts that was from.
So, Jack, welcome.
Thank you.
So you've come here today to find out if your ancestors were slaves from Madagascar, right?
Yes.
Why is that important to you?
It's because it's connected to my grandfather, who was the only grandparent I had growing up. So I was very close to him, and he was very secretive. So I'd like to learn more about his history.
So let's have a look at the family tree. Now, your middle name is Frederick.
Yeah.
And you get that from your mum, Kim.
Yes.
That was her maiden name.
Yes,
and she gets it from Luke Frederick. He's Mauritian.
Yes.
Now, Mauritius is actually sort of almost in the middle of the Indian Ocean, off the east coast of Africa. So what do we know about Mauritius? We know that it didn't have a native population, so it was mainly populated by slaves. We know it was colonised by the Dutch in the 1600s, then the French in the 1700s, and then the British. And they brought with them slaves, and they brought the slaves from everywhere. So a connection with Mauritius and slavery is there in the history. The thing about slavery is they didn't care where you were from. They didn't worry about your tribal affiliation, what country you were from. They just picked you up and threw you together, which is why you get this wonderful genetic admixture, right? People who are descended from slaves are so colourful in their DNA because of this, ignorance that happened in the past. And so the French were there. And the French are particularly important to you and your story because I want to show you this record. Now, this is in French. It's a slave register. Now, they registered the slaves because the slaves were assets.
Yeah.
Not because they cared about them as individuals. They cared about them as a piece of property. And you can see here what they have, things like their name, their surname, their colour, or where they're from, their age, etc. And can you read that name there?
Roselle Frederick. Wow. Unbelievable.
So when you look at that, and you've got Frederick in your name, there's Frederick there in the register, what we can say with some certainty is that the surname Frederick is associated with slaves, and it's associated with slaves in this place.
Right. Yeah. It's good to get some closure on that confirms things. It's not just a suspicion.
You and your mum both took DNA tests.
Yeah.
What do we know about Mauritius slaves? There's a connection, obviously, with slavery from West Africa. There's also a connection with slaves from India and from Asia. What do we see when we look at your mum's DNA? Ethnicities all over the west coast of Africa, from India, from the south of Asia, from Melanesia, from Polynesia. This is a template of what a Madagascan slave's DNA would look like. We have that second piece of evidence. So we are virtually certain that the Fredericks, that your grandfather was the descendant of Madagascan slaves.
Wow. It's nice to have some kind of paper trail rather than just the DNA.
But it doesn't end there.
Right, okay.
This is more than enough evidence. But we thought we'd have another look at the family tree. So if we step back one more generation, and we have Charles Frederick, your great-grandfather, and then we have Marie Bertha Abraham. She's your great-grandmother. That Abraham name also appears in the slave registers.
Really?
And that Abraham name appears in slave registers with Indian slaves.
That doesn't surprise me. The only Abrahams I've been able to find in Mauritius are all of Indian descent. I didn't realise there were Indian slaves, though.
They came from everywhere. The Indians came out with various different colonisations.
Wow. I thought they came in after slavery with the indentured labourers.
They did do that, but there were some Indian slaves as well. And here in this tiny little dot in the Indian Ocean is this collection. All the enslaved peoples of the world were there.
Wow.
And that's in your mother's DNA, that's in your DNA, and it's clearly in your family history.
My mum will be really surprised because she doesn't know anything about her history, and it's like we've always had this kind of hole in our lives because we knew nothing about her father's side of the family.
Well, now there's a little more to tell.
It's nice to find that out.
Thank you so much, Jack.
Thank you very much, Brad.
Jack, what's your reaction to everything you've heard today?
Overwhelmed and emotional, I think. It's quite hard to know that people owned your family and they were just deemed as property. It's horrifying knowing the kind of things that they would have gone through.
So what does it feel like? You know a bit more, feeling like you can fill in the gaps?
I feel relieved because I actually know the truth about my grandfather's background and potentially why he was quite a closed-off man. He was very secretive. He didn't talk much about his past. And if he had those horrors there, I can kind of understand why he didn't talk about it.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Brad has uncovered details which suggest that Jack's Mauritian ancestors are indeed linked to the slave trade. Next, we're returning to Dawn Conway, who's already been told that she comes from a line of silk weavers who fled persecution in France. Now, Onyeka is about to reveal whether her family is linked to George Doré, who made the 1902 coronation robes of King Edward VII.
Now, Dawn, this is your family tree that starts here in the 21st century.
Yes.
And goes back almost 250 years.
Yes.
To a John Knight Doré and an Anne Perea. I don't know quite how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
I suspect it's a French name that's been anglicised not very well. Remember that we said that John Knight and Henry Doré are both silk weavers?
Yes.
So this is a family tradition. And Huguenots often anglicise their names to get on in society.
To kind of disguise themselves in...
That's correct, yeah. So this is taking your family tree a little further. John and Anne had several children, not just Henry, your great-great-great-grandfather, but also his brother, Isaac Doré.
OK.
Henry Doré, your 3 times great-grandfather,
Right.
had a brother.
It's exciting. I wonder if he was a silk weaver. Well, I'm assuming he would be, if it's family, whether John Knight was the silk weaver.
Now, Isaac also had children.
OK.
This is a 19th century marriage record for George Doré to Caroline Emma.
Reynolds?
In 1878, which shows that his father was Isaac Doré.
Right.
And that his profession was a silk weaver. His name is George Doré.
With double E.
With a double E.
Is this the George Doré, or is it just completely different George Doré?
The father, the brother, the grandfather, all silk weavers.
Right.
This marriage record proves that George Doré is directly related to you.
Is it the same George Doré as the one that done the coronation rose for Edward VII?
Well, I'm going to show you a picture of the George Doré that this marriage record concerns, and then you can tell me. This is George Doré, the famous silk weaver that created Edward VII's coronation robes.
Ah! It is?
Yes.
So I am related?
Yes.
Oh, my God! He was telling the truth. Wow.
So let's go back a little bit
Wow, that's amazing.
to include George Doré. This is an extended version of your
Yeah.
family tree. See that Henry Doré, your 3 times great-grandfather, had a brother, Isaac Doré, who married Anne Young. They had George Doré. This George Doré is your first cousin, 4 times removed. Born in 1844, died in 1916.
Wow.
This George Doré is the same George Doré
Wow.
that made the coronation robes for Edward VII.
Wow. That is amazing. Good old granddad.
And you'll be able to go through the areas of Spitalfields, and when they speak about the Huguenots, they speak about what they went through, what they suffered,
Yes.
and also what they achieved.
Yeah.
And you know that that's part of your family history too.
Yeah. And we are quite strong, and we all pull together our family. So that must have just come down through the years.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To know that we've come from generation upon generation of silk weaving Huguenots is amazing. And then to find out, all I thought was he'd made silk for the king. I didn't know that he'd done this coronation for the king. That's amazing. I can't wait to go see it and view it in the museum.
Yeah.
I can't wait, and to show my children.
You've got a big smile on your face,
I'm
Dawn.
so happy. I was just like, oh, I can't wait to go on the phone and tell them.
We better let you go. Thank you so much for coming. It's
Thank
a great
you very
story.
much. Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
is. Thank you.
Dawn leaves with a proud lineage of Huguenot silk weavers and an ancestor who crafted the 1902 coronation robes of Edward VII. Coming up, historian Onyeka Nubia honours the unsung First World War heroes of one woman's family.
George and Richard aren't the only members of your family who were involved in this conflict.
Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't know about that part.
Next, to another story with a royal twist. Catherine Dixon suspects she may share ancestors with one Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge.
My name's Catherine Dixon. I'm originally from Newcastle upon Tyne, but I now live in London with my family. As I was looking through my family history, I came across some names which lead me to believe that I'm related to Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge. Her family came from the same part of County Durham as my mum's. I know that my mother came from a long history of coal miners, and I understand from what I read in the papers that Kate Middleton had on her mother's side relatives who were coal miners as well. So, I was curious as to whether there might be some connection there.
Catherine Dixon, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
It's very exciting because it gives us an excuse to put royalty up on the screen. Kate Middleton, no less. What do you do now in London?
I work for a bank in Canary Wharf.
So what leads you to believe that you are related to the royal family's commoner?
Yes, I did some investigation from my mother's father's side. My great-great-great-great-great-grandmother, Jane Hardy, she married a coal miner, Mr. Hardy, and was the same person as Kate Middleton's ancestor. And then this name Conyers turned up, and I thought, oh, that's interesting.
And this is Kate Middleton's family tree you're talking about, which, of course, has now been quite well publicised because she's one of the most famous women, I think it would be fair to say, in the world almost now, by virtue of whom she married. So let's have a look at Catherine Middleton, Kate Middleton's family tree. Jane Hardy is her 5 times removed grandmother. In other words, her great-great-great-great-grandmother. Jane Hardy's grandfather was Sir Thomas Conyers. His daughter was another Jane, Jane Conyers, hence we get a Jane Hardy, his granddaughter. Sir Thomas Conyers was the 3rd son. You never, especially back then, want to be the youngest sibling, especially in days of primogeniture. The oldest son got everything. In this case, his older brother got everything. Sir Thomas, who clearly was brought up as a posh boy, had no clue, clearly, how to earn a decent living because he ends up in a bit of a workhouse mess until his friends rescue him. Hence the reason why his daughter, Jane Conyers, probably married beneath herself somewhat because it was all about what you were and what you had in those days. And therefore, Jane Hardy, and from there on in, we see sort of a more modest stock emerging. Kate Middleton, indeed a commoner marrying into the royal family, turned round the fortunes of her tree. Let's now focus on you, because the quest we have is linking this Jane Hardy to your Jane Hardy, or the one you believe exists in your family tree. You said it was through your maternal line up your maternal grandfather's side, is that right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So Matthias Swimbank is where we're at. We're going to go from this grandfather and see if indeed we do get to a Jane Hardy. So your 3 times removed great-grandfather is another Matthias Swimbank, and he is married indeed to a Jane Hardy, as you can see there. However, so I just go quickly back. You look at the Jane Hardy in Kate Middleton's family tree. She's born in 1795, so at the end of the 18th century. In your family tree, this Jane Hardy, we know, was born in 1808. And we know that because, indeed, we have the register of her birth. Can you see Jane Hardy? 1808. So we're going to have to go back a generation because that's not the same Jane Hardy.
Oh, it's a different Jane.
It's a different Jane Hardy. Well, they're born 13 years apart. So let's see if we can find a Conyers further back or another Jane Hardy, possibly. And we've got a George Hardy marrying here and Anne Allison. And they're in Dalton-on-Dale in County Durham. And he was a farmer. Probably grew crops. So there's George, married to Anne, maiden name Allison, have baby Jane Hardy. Not, as I say, the Jane Hardy in Kate Middleton's family tree. So let's go back a line further, because we need to conclusively find out whether you are indeed a Middleton.
Or if the Middletons are Dixon.
Indeed, well put. So now what we're trying to work out is George Hardy's heritage. Who were his parents? OK, we know that his daughter Jane Hardy is the wrong Hardy. Can George Hardy somehow link us back to the Conyers? George is the son here of Mary Hardy. OK, so at the moment, again, not another Jane Hardy, which is what we want, or a Jane Conyers. Here we have the registration of Mary's marriage. Mary Hardy. Who did she marry? Was she indeed the Hardy? And in fact, if you look at this, we can see that it was Mary Rowlandson marrying a William Hardy. Which means we don't have a Jane Hardy, a Jane Conyers, or a Sir Thomas Conyers that we can identify in your family tree. Timing here is absolutely crucial. So this couple get married in 1772. Jane Conyers, who was the mother of Jane Hardy in Kate Middleton's family tree, gets married in 1778. So there is a mismatch. The lines don't match up. Jane Conyers is married and she's having baby Jane Hardy, who's born in 1795. George, who's your great-great-great-great-grandfather, is in fact born in 1781. So we can confirm that you are not related to Kate Middleton.
Either way, it doesn't really matter. It's an interesting story.
It is an interesting story, but as Kate isn't blue blood, is it a great loss?
Not at all.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for joining us today.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it.
You're going away now feeling what?
Oh, no, I'm feeling really good because I realise I'm better at banking than ancestry. I'll leave that to the professionals.
Thanks for coming.
My pleasure, thank you.
So far, we've already linked one family to the coronation of a king.
Is?
Yes.
So I am related?
Yes.
Oh, my God!
And cracked decades-old family mysteries.
Unbelievable.
But we're not done yet.
The Battle of the Somme was one of the major campaigns of the First World War and also one of the bloodiest. It claimed more than 1 million British and German lives. Laura Seven wants to know what happened to 2 great-great-uncles who were at the Somme but who never came home.
My name is Laura Seven. I'm married to Heather. We've been married for almost 2 years and we live in Nottingham. I've always been really passionate about history and it's always intrigued me to look back into my family history, especially into the 2 great-great-uncles that died during the First World War. The first one is my great-great-uncle on my grandfather's side. His name is George Eady. All I know about him is that he died during the Somme in 1916, I do believe it was. We know that he was missing in action. He was never found, and it's quite, I don't know, challenging to know that like someone who was related to you is their body was never found. We went to France last year to several different war memorials, and we found George Eady's name on the Tiefrau Memorial. And then the other gentleman is my great-great-uncle on my grandmother's side. His full name was John Richard Barnes, but he was always referred to in the family as Richard Barnes. And he died in 1917 and he was missing in action. And that's about as far as I know. While we was in France, we found our Barnes on Canberra Memorial. George and Richard, they're not on any memorials anywhere in Nottingham, as far as I know. It seems to be that both great-great-uncles' medals didn't get passed on to our side of the family. I just really think it's important. My great-great-uncle's story should be told.
Hello, Laura. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, Laura, you have 2 great-great-uncles.
Yep.
One of them, you believe, is represented on this memorial in the Somme.
Yep.
And the second on the Cambrai Memorial in France.
That's correct, yeah.
Right. This is your family tree. We're tracing your maternal,
Yes.
your mother's line.
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
The people that we're looking for are George Eady
Yes.
and John Richard Barnes.
That's correct.
So you believe this is a photograph of John Richard
Yeah,
Barnes.
yeah.
Richard, if we can call him that, your great-great-uncle. 2 months into the First World War, 1914, Richard is about to enlist. In 1914, men volunteered to fight. When we look back, we see the World War I as a terrible catastrophe of loss of life, blood, and terror. They didn't know that the war was going to be like that because no war had been like that until World War I happened. So they're thinking it's going to be glory. This is a World War I service record for John Richard Barnes.
It's incredible, isn't it?
And he signed up as R. Barnes
Yeah.
at the top there. He was 28. We also know that he was part of a rifle brigade. Now, your other great-great-uncle George was also in his late 20s, and he enlists in the battalion of the Essex Regiment. And before France, he's posted to a campaign in Gallipoli.
All right.
In 1915, where the Australians and other Commonwealth soldiers were involved in a campaign against the Ottoman Empire. It was a terrible campaign, mostly because the senior officers really didn't know what they were doing and led their young men often to slaughter. He survived that particular blood and slaughter. So by 1916, George and Richard were both in France. Now, the first thing about the Somme that we need to understand is that the Somme was not one battle.
No.
It was a campaign. The campaign that we're thinking about is the 1916 campaign, often referred to as the bloodiest battle of World War I. George is killed in action in November 1916.
You've got to be brave, haven't you, to do something like that?
So let's move forward to Richard, your other ancestor. His name is mentioned and printed in dispatches and in a supplement to the London Gazette, 1917. Now, he was noted for gallant and distinguished service in the field. It's very rare that a private soldier is noted for gallantry in the field.
Wow.
This is a casualty list.
Our Barnes.
All of those people were killed on that day. That's just one page. It was recorded on the 30th of November, 1917. His battalion was fighting at Cambrai with great loss of life. And after a deadly counterattack by the Germans, the battalion's war diary reports the names of those that went missing or were presumed dead. This is the list. His body wasn't found.
It's just a tragic way to die.
Yes.
A scary way.
Yes.
It's got to have been terrifying.
But George and Richard aren't the only members of your family who were involved in this conflict. So we want to take a little moment now to focus on another hero. Your great-grandmother, Lily Wilson. This is a photograph of munitionettes, which is a name given to those women that worked in the munition factories in 1916, in fact, from 1914 onwards. By 1916, there was compulsory conscription. That means men were being called up, they were no longer volunteering. Women took on what were called men's jobs to help the war. Your great-grandmother was one of those women. They were handling highly explosive munitions, very volatile. Some of these women, their hair fell out. They became infertile. Some of these women died from conditions directly related to the work that they did.
Just as bad as the front lines then, isn't it, really?
So your great-grandmother is as much a hero as your great-great-uncles.
Sometimes you're thinking of focusing on
the men
that died in the war, and you sometimes forget that obviously women played their part as well, just as much.
So your particular family suffered more than most, showed heroism more than most. Several branches of your maternal side fought in this war.
It's heartbreaking, but you've got that pride there as well.
So if we go back to your great-great-uncles for a moment, I just wanted to take us through some of the awards for bravery that George Eadie has received. In 1914 to 1915, he received the Star. The Star was for his contribution during the early part of the First World War. He also received the British War Medal and the Victory Medal. Richard Barnes also received the 1914 to 1915 Star, the British War Medal and the Victory Medal. This is a memorial to those soldiers that fought in the Great War. John Richard is on this memorial. And this memorial is in St. Saviour's Church in Nottingham, your hometown.
Oh, all right. Wow. Didn't know that.
In case you're wondering what those medals of your ancestors look like, we've had replica medals made for you.
Thank you. They're incredible. Thank you so much. Overwhelmed, I think.
When those young men stepped over their trenches, advancing line by line, while their friends, families, and comrades are being shot down, they're perhaps thinking that they're going to be forgotten. That 100 years later, who will remember them? But you're testament to the fact that they won't be forgotten.
They shouldn't be forgotten.
They shouldn't be forgotten. So, Laura, thank you for coming here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's incredible to know that they both got medals that not everyone got. See them, whether they're the real thing or not, that's what they would have looked like. And it's just a shame that they never got to see those. They never got to wear them and hold them and be proud of that fact for themselves. I went to France, I saw their names, that was the start. And now, knowing their lives, knowing what they went through, knowing what they were awarded, knowing their bravery, it's nice. It's nice to know that.
Laura has learned from Onyeka the stark details of her valiant ancestors' World War I experiences. Her great-great-uncle George died during the Battle of the Somme, while Richard was killed in the Battle of Cambrai. She also now knows which medals they received and that Richard is honoured on a memorial in her home city of Nottingham.
We've been contacted by people throughout Britain who are desperate to have their family mysteries resolved.
I'd like to find out a little bit about my father's time in the RAF during the Second World War.
I'm trying to find my husband's grandmother's older brother. I know he was married, I know he had 2 children. On one of his children's marriage certificates, he's deceased, and on the other, he isn't. I can't find anything more about him.
And here to help is our team of genealogical and historical experts. Ancestry genealogist Brad Argent.
And there's one final thing that I want to leave you with.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God.
Who's that? Spitting image of my little girl.
Historian and law lecturer Onyeka Nubia.
Robert Andrew Hall is somewhere in this photograph.
Wow. But first, historian and writer Tessa Dunlop, who's hoping to shed light on a transatlantic family mystery.
My name is Lindsay McLaughlin. I'm from Nottingham. I've been doing some research into my family tree and I've been able to figure out who my great-grandparents are, but my great-grandmother on my mother's side, I've not been able to figure out much about her. So we don't know where she was born, although we've had it trickle down through the family that she might have been born in America. And I haven't been able to find anything out about any further back on her side of the family because of that. So I'm here to try and find out more about my great-grandmother.
Lindsay, thank you for coming to the show and bringing this mystery of a great-grandmother that I think your mother, Elaine, and you have been trying to unknot.
Yes, we have.
So we've got a Mary Agnes Hames.
Yes.
And why does she interest you if you know nothing about her?
I've been able to trace back a lot of my family lines, but Mary's is one that's just been cut short with a brick wall and I can't find anything further, so I'm really keen to try and figure out what I can about her.
OK. We have found her marriage certificate, which confirms that Mary Agnes Hames married a Herbert Greenhow. Yep. And we can see there down to Lindsay.
Yep.
Of Nottinghamshire fame. The reason we know, of course, of that marriage, not just because it led to the arrival of your grandfather, but because there is a marriage certificate to prove it. 1926, marriage solemnised in West Derby. And here we have Herbert with Mary. Now, the reason this is relevant in terms of our search is because her father is cited.
Yes.
OK? And that's where we have a William Hames, deceased, you can see, by the time she gets married in 1926. And in a rather flamboyant fashion, he is a professor of languages, no less. So she marries a plumber, but her father's a professor of languages. I suggest that might be perceived as something of a step down. But let's find out more about this William Hames.
Yeah.
I wonder if you know what this is.
Was that a ship passenger list?
It is a ship passenger list, indeed. The man in question is 36 years old, none other than William Hames. He's born in 1857 in Middle England, but by now he is heading for America, and it's 1889.
Okay.
And he arrives in the city of Philadelphia. Now, by 1890, Philadelphia was a thriving, growing city, one of the biggest in America. After the Civil War, huge numbers of immigrants arrived, so a place where there would be huge numbers of languages. He lands a job as a director of the Berlitz School of Languages.
Wow.
So he had a plum job. He was doing very well. And as a man with a plum job, naturally, he had a wife to go with it. We know this because he's in the census. 10 years later, here's the Philadelphia census of 1900. And you can see where it has been highlighted. William is married to a Mary. We know from the documentation that he married Mary 10 years earlier, so very shortly after his arrival in Philadelphia, he gets married.
Okay.
If you look, they live with one other person. Can you see?
Yeah.
Who do you make her out as?
Mary Mackay?
That's right. She's from Greenock in Scotland.
Oh, OK.
She's 14 years old and she's a servant. So we have head of the family, wife, and servant. And if you look along at the highlighted zeros, which is under the column of children, they don't have any. All right, bearing in mind we are looking for a daughter with the same name as her mother.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Marys. I've got to flag up at this point. We have servant Mary, wife Mary, and we're hunting for a daughter called Mary. But there isn't one, as you can see on this form, which means we need to keep going to look at a future census. They have by now been married 9 or 10 years. So if they were going to have children, it's likely they would have arrived. Let's look at the census from 1910. And here we have Mary Hames, a boarder, living on her own. And you can also see that she still doesn't have any children. Do you see?
Yeah.
The 2 zeros in those columns? So we have a childless woman on her own, which suggests one of 2 things. She's been abandoned or she's widowed. If you go back 1 year to 1909, we find William Hames's death certificate. Are you understanding the problem that we've come across here? The roadblock. Well, we've got William identified through your great-grandmother's marriage certificate as her father, and there is only one William G. Hames, and we've tracked him to Philadelphia, but he doesn't have a child with his wife. So where is this mythical Mary who goes back to England and marries a plumber? She's missing.
Yeah.
He, in his will, doesn't leave any money to a child.
Okay.
Just to his wife.
Okay.
Mystery. Let's go back to the census of 1900. And on that census, we have 2 Marys, don't we?
Yeah.
One Mary's his wife, and one Mary is his servant girl, aged 14.
Coming up, having confirmed that Lindsay's family do indeed trace back to America, Tessa will next solve the mystery of her great-grandmother's birth.
I wasn't expecting that kind of scandal.
Next, Ancestry genealogist Brad Argent is trying to help a family uncover more about their New Zealand heritage. Eve Wilkinson and her son Alan are here to discover if there's truth in a long-standing family rumour. Was Eve's grandmother, Evelyn, adopted from a Maori tribe?
Alan started researching the family tree and got as far back as Grandma, and it was found out she was adopted, and after that the trail just goes dead.
What we'd really love to know is where she really comes from. Do we know who her parents were? Were we, as the family tale goes, Maori, or were we in fact part of the white colonists that came over from England?
Alan, Eve, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Now, I understand that you're here to try and break through a brick wall you've had for some time about your granny, Evelyn, your great-grandmother.
Yeah.
You know she was born in New Zealand around 1907 and adopted out, and that she could possibly be of Maori extraction. Is that right?
That's right, but literally, that is the brick wall. That is all we really know up until she got married to my great-granddad.
So, Alan, this is the family tree. So, Alan, we start with you, and then, Eve, we'll go up to you here, and then we go a step back to Lorna, your mum, and then back to Evelyn Sisson. And so she's the one that we're trying to find out more about.
She is the enigma of the family.
These days, it's so much easier to look at your DNA and get a sense of, OK,
yeah,
where did my ancestors come from? So your DNA, Eve, is probably the best one to look at because it's going to give us the closest we can get to Evelyn. So let's just zoom in and have a bit of a look at where this is pointing to. We've got a big chunk in the UK, there's a bit of Scandinavian, there's a little bit of Irish or Celtic DNA, but no Polynesian, which we would expect to see if there was some Maori in there, particularly more recent. I would have expected it here. It's not there, but there's other things that DNA can tell us. Now, it might sound a bit incongruous to what we've been talking about, but believe me, it will fall into place. These are Hessian soldiers, right? They're actually German soldiers. And these soldiers, they're probably like mercenaries, and they were used by the English all the time. There's one of these soldiers, a gentleman by the name of George Otto. He had quite a large family. And one of those daughters he had, Eliza, she made her way to New Zealand. And so when we looked at your DNA, there's a lot of connections that you've got that have this Eliza Otto in their tree. And so from the detailed analysis of your DNA results, we're pretty convinced that there's a strong connection between Evelyn and the Hessian soldiers. And we think it's through that line. This is the family tree, and what we can see here is Evelyn Sisson, your granny, and then Eliza Otto and George Otto. So we're kind of getting a little bit closer now to cracking the nut. So
it's definitely gone a different angle than we expected, yes. I thought if we weren't Maori, we'd have probably been English colonial, but never expected ending up coming from Germany.
Let's just focus a little bit more on Evelyn. So this is Evelyn's post-adoption birth certificate. Now, what that is it's a birth certificate that is reissued once somebody is adopted, and it replaces the name of the birth parents with the name of the adopted parent. And what we can see here is the names of the adoptive parents. For the first time, we get to see Thomas Sisson and Ellen Mary Sisson. What is wonderful about this, and you can see it highlighted there, is her birth name, Evelyn Mariner Smith, or Smythe. But what about the pre-adoption birth certificate? Because when she was adopted, she was almost 4 years old.
We didn't know that. I didn't realise that, no.
So there was a time period when she would have, she would have been born, she was staying with her mother and that. So there is a traditional, pre-adoption birth record. It confirms what we saw on the post-adoption record in terms of her name and her birth date. But if we zoom in, you can see it gives us details of who a mother is. This is your great-grandmother, Eve. Mary Jane Smythe. She's 18, and she was born in New Zealand.
And that's my middle name, Mary. So it all connects.
The fact that your great-grandmother, Mary Jane Smythe, was a Kiwi, right? That her daughter, your granny, was a Kiwi because she was born there too.
I mean, but at least we know we were definitely Kiwis.
How do you feel, Eve?
I don't know. Now I want to know why she was adopted.
Well, the journey's only just begun.
So they now know their ancestors are part Kiwi and part German. Brad's not stopping there, though, as later he'll be offering an insight into Evelyn's adoption.
I was not expecting to actually be able to see a photo of her. It is just absolutely fantastic.
But first, back to Lindsay's story. Tessa Dunlop has traced her great-great-grandfather, William Hames, to Philadelphia. Now she wants to reveal the mystery of William's daughter, Mary.
So we have head of the family, William, wife, and servant. Okay. So where is this mythical Mary? She's missing.
Yeah.
We know that within 8 years, William's going to be dead, aged 51. Okay? Meanwhile, Mary Mackay, working for Master William Hames, gets married in 1904 to a Charles Braun, who comes from Bohemia in Austria. We can't find him anywhere in any record, with one exception: the birth certificate of a Mary Agnes Braun, born the same year as young Mary Mackay from Greenock gets married. So she gets married and has a baby within 7 months.
Okay.
But there's something very fishy about the man she gets married to, because he doesn't come with a paper trail that you'd expect, which suggests there may have been something of a cover-up around the arrival of baby Mary in 1904, when Mary, the mother, would have been 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
We think this baby Mary Agnes Braun was the daughter of William Hames, the Master of Languages and the Master of the House. There are 2 reasons, and one is your DNA results.
Okay.
And your results had 3 fourth cousin matches with the name Mackay.
Okay.
Which suggests that it's quite likely Mary Mackay was the mother of Mary Agnes Braun Hames, who was also the daughter of William Hames.
Yeah. Okay.
There's another, I think probably more conclusive document, and that is the 1921 will of Mary Agnes Hames Sr., in other words, William's wife, who presumably wasn't fertile, okay? But look at her will. This is the last will and testament for Mary Agnes Howlett Hames. If you go down to the highlighted bit, she refers to my adopted daughter, Mary Agnes Braun, your great-grandmother.
Wow. Oh, yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that kind of scandal.
It's a bit of a scandal.
It is a bit of a scandal.
We have a teenage servant girl, an infertile wife, and an active Master of Languages. And as a result, we get baby Mary Agnes Hames, who interestingly clearly knows about this story. She gets the money because she's referred to in the will as Mary Agnes Braun, but we know that 5 years later, when she gets married, she's calling herself Hames.
Yeah.
So I think, happy ending.
Yeah.
And also, lest we forget, she gets a lump of cash, surely. She's going to be quite well off.
That's probably why she married a plumber.
Yeah, she could marry for love.
Exactly.
So, in summary, Mary Agnes, your great-grandmother, was indeed born in America, in Philadelphia, to a servant from Scotland, also called Mary, who worked for your great-great-grandfather, William George Hames.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for uncovering all of that for me.
Thank you so much for bringing
Thank you.
what was really an exciting journey across the Atlantic and back.
I feel good about the fact that I now know where Mary Agnes Hames comes from and that I've kind of fit that little piece into the jigsaw puzzle, but there's a lot more that I still need to kind of unwrap now, and I feel like it's opened a door that was closed, and there's plenty of doors beyond it that I can now explore and try and find out more about that part of the family.
Little did Lindsay know that by searching for details of her great-grandmother Mary's life, she would actually learn of a century-long secret about Mary's scandalous birth. Earlier, Brad confirmed to Eve and her son Alan that Eve's grandmother was born in New Zealand before being adopted.
If we zoom in, you can see it gives us details of who a mother is. This is your great-grandmother, Eve. Mary Jane Smythe. She's 18, and she was born in New Zealand.
He's also revealed they were descended from German Hessian soldiers.
Never expected anything odd coming from Germany.
Now it's up to Brad to unravel the events that led to Eve's grandmother's adoption.
So we know Evelyn Mariner Smythe. We know when she was born. We know who adopted her. We've got confirmation of that. We're reasonably confident that the biological father was from this Otto line, the Hessian soldiers. And so we looked at Mary Jane a little bit, her mum.
Yeah.
And here she's quite young. She's 18. She's obviously had your granny out of wedlock, and she had her for about 3 or 4 years before she put her up for adoption. At the time that she was adopting out her daughter, she was getting married. Look, it's really difficult to put yourself in that situation. Who knows, her husband might have said, well, I'm happy to marry you, but that's not my child. I don't want to bring up that child. She might have made that decision independently. Her parents might have pressured her to do that so she could get married. There's a whole bunch of things that might have happened. So now we come to this photo. This is Thomas, and this is Ellen Sisson. These were the two people who adopted Evelyn, who took her into their lives. And they became your great-grandparents. This is a story that starts in New Zealand, but this isn't where they end up. Because you guys are here, right? So we had a bit of a look to see if we could find Evelyn and her adoptive parents, the Sissons, in the passenger records. And here they are. And here we can see, highlighted there, Thomas Sisson, Mary Ellen Sisson, and Evelyn Sisson. The great thing about it, and I'm not sure if you can see it on the end there, is it gives you details of his mother, Miss A. Sisson, and where they're living. James Street in, is it Kimberley? It looks like Nottinghamshire, so that's where they're headed.
Jesus.
That's just up the road from us.
Really? That is literally probably about 5 minutes drive tops.
Well, that's where they were headed.
That is so weird, that the mystery of it all, and it's just not so much even a stone's throw from where we live.
And there's one final thing that I want to leave you with.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
This is Evelyn Mariner Smythe. Does she look like anyone in the family?
Scaringly, a spitting image of my little girl.
It's just so Isabella. The look on her face, the mannerisms.
The almost identical resemblance to my own little girl, you know. It's just mind-boggling.
So, Alan, Eve, thank you so much for sharing this with us.
I was hoping for some answers, but I was not expecting this much, or to actually be able to see a photo of her or anything. It is just absolutely fantastic. And so thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
was shocking to see the photo. I mean, I knew it was my great-grandma, but at the same time, it was my little girl. Almost identical. I mean, I never expected that at all.
It was like someone had taken a picture of Isabella and made it look old. It was
just identical, almost. It answered the question, but it gave so many more to answer now, and it's just inspired me to keep going.
With the help of DNA testing and genealogy detective work, Eve and her son Alan now know the true origins of Eve's grandmother. And Brad's given them an insight into the story behind her adoption. In the First World War, a soldier's average life expectancy in the trenches was just 6 weeks. Student Charlotte Hall, who's from Liverpool, has found a book on World War I graves, and she wants to know whether Private R.A. Hall was her relative.
I am hoping to find out a little bit more about the documents that I found relating to a gentleman called R.A. Hall. My name's Charlotte. I'm from Manchester, but I've been living in Liverpool for over 10 years now. I'm currently a student, but I'm also working part-time. My father passed away a few years ago, and he was always interested in his family history. After he passed away and I was clearing out some of his stuff, I came across some old documents that were related to a member of family I hadn't heard of. I came across a booklet called The War Graves of the British Empire. And this was the booklet that contained information on R.A. Hall. So this is R.A. Hall's war grave memorial.
Right.
He was 23 years old when he died, and he died on the 1st of July, 1916. So I'd like to find out a little bit more about that. I think my dad was probably onto something interesting with R.A. Hall. I think he probably would have wanted to find out more himself and maybe just didn't know how to go about it. I'd like to find out more specifically where he fit in the family tree. I'd like to know what his involvement was in the war. I think it would be a really lovely tribute to my dad to kind of finish off the stuff that he started and maybe have that as his legacy.
Charlotte, thank you for joining us. We understand that you've got an interesting inquiry about this mysterious R.A. Hall.
Yeah.
And the first mention comes after your father, Michael, passed away.
I kind of wanted to find out a little bit more, maybe for him. There didn't really seem to be much more information to go on.
Well, I'm happy to report that we have discovered a lot of information.
Oh, OK.
Yeah, about the life of R.A. Hall. First of all, his name was Robert Andrew Hall.
Which is interesting because my brother's called Andrew, so that's really interesting to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we found records of Robert's military history from 1914 onwards. Robert joined the Manchester Regiment. It was a regiment raised from local people within Manchester. This is a recruitment poster for the POWs battalion. It's a name that was given by a Lord Derby who thought of the idea of recruiting soldiers for the First World War who were friends, family, into one unit, one regiment, one company. The purpose was that if they were friends together, they would fight together.
Wow, OK.
Yeah, this is the time before there was compulsory recruitment. These were volunteers.
Wow, OK. That's really, it's powerful kind of hearing that. It's really kind of crazy to hear as well that he volunteered and kind of gave up his life really voluntarily rather than being conscripted.
So once we knew what battalion Robert had served in, we started to look into the archives, the war records, to find out more information. And we found this incredible picture of the 11th Platoon A Company of the 20th Battalion of the Manchester Regiment. Robert Andrew Hall is somewhere in this photograph. but we don't know exactly which man he is. You gave us the date of birth of your great-grandfather, William Hall, and we suspected that Robert could have been a close relative, as their age matched men most likely to have fought in World War I. This is a family tree. Following a close study of military, birth, and marriage records, our research revealed that Robert Hall is William's brother. How does that make you feel?
It's
overwhelming.
Yeah, it is. It is overwhelming, but it's also it's a good feeling as well. It's good to know that he is related, and that he was really brave, and that he voluntarily fought in the war as well.
So, Robert Andrew Hall, your great-granduncle, died on the 1st of July, 1916, on the very first day of the Battle of the Somme.
It's really sad to know that it's sad to know that he died fighting in the war, but on the first day as well, of the Battle of the Somme.
Robert's platoon arrived in France on the 9th of November, 1915. It was winter then, and they sort of had to dig in. The offensive didn't begin until July the 1st of 1916. Now, it was truly horrific, the trenches of the First World War. Knee-deep in mud, often the soldiers were covered in lice. There were rats there the size of cats. Terrible conditions. When eventually they were called up, they were expected to walk through steadily over their own lines and towards the enemy. Not to run, but to walk in steady lines. The result was carnage. Over 141 days of fighting, 1.3 million casualties. On the first day alone, 19,240 British casualties on the first day. What you see here is a map. It's a map of the field where the first offensive of the Battle of Somme took place. The blue cross there marks the line where Robert Andrew Hall fell, just a few feet away from the German lines. He made it all the way from his own lines, through no man's land. This is very, very, very unusual.
It's just really overwhelming. That he was so brave, you know.
Robert was not the only person to die on that day. That picture that you saw of those young men, 24 of those young men died on that first day. This is a will written by Robert Hall, probably when he was in those trenches. Can we read what he says?
Yeah. In the event of my death, I give the whole of my property and effects to Mary Ellen Hall.
Everything that he has, he signs back to his mother. So now, Charlotte, now you know that all of that work that your father started wasn't just for local history. This was family history, which is now entwined in some of the most important moments in world history. And the sacrifice of your particular family has been great. And you should be proud.
I am. Very.
Charlotte, thank you for coming, and I hope that that provides some closure for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
My dad probably would have been as emotional as I was today finding out that information. It just feels like missing part of the family tree. He probably would have been really impressed with today. It actually makes me feel really good that, you know, my family was bigger than I thought, and that it involved people that were so brave.
So an unknown name in a book has been revealed as Charlotte's war hero great-granduncle, Robert Hall. Next, genetic genealogist Brad Argent meets Elizabeth Cloak, who wants to learn the truth about her grandfather Henry's secret life.
The story is that my maternal grandfather, he had a family from somewhere in Yorkshire. He left them and he turned up in Northumberland, where he met and married my maternal grandmother and went on to have a very large family. But he changed his name to Harry Page. In my mother's family, she had a sister called Constant Elizabeth, and I was told that in his other family, in Yorkshire, he had a daughter called Constance Elizabeth. So he had two daughters with the same name. But my mother was very upset by the revelation. It didn't come out very long before she died, but I don't know a great deal more. I'd like to know about the other family. I'd like to know how many children there were, what happened to them. Have I got any cousins now? Wouldn't it be really nice to know the whole history?
Liz, welcome.
Thank you.
So you always knew your grandfather, this man here, as Harry Page, right?
Yes.
Your grandfather.
Yes, grandfather.
So what was the rumour about his other name?
He was Pickering. They thought he may come from Leeds. They thought he may come from Pickering itself. And maybe that's where it came from. So it's all guesswork, really.
So he's a bit of a man of mystery. Now, there's a connection with a Clara, isn't there?
Yes. We think that was his first wife. Well, his wife.
There's a lot of question marks around this man. We have fragments of what is a really interesting story. So let's see if we can get documents to clarify some of that.
Okay.
So we've been doing quite a bit of research and we've got some really interesting things to tell you.
Okay.
We have actually found a marriage record. So this gives us a bit of evidence to support that family story. Right, and if you just look up the top there, you can see that's Thomas Pickering, 20.
So it was Pickering then?
We're as sure as we can be that this is Thomas Pickering, or Harry Page, not least because he marries a Clara Levitt.
Yes.
Right?
Clara Levitt.
They're quite young. He's a commercial traveller, so a travelling salesman. So what we know now is on November 17th, 1900, Thomas Pickering, who you always knew as Harry Page, married a Clara Levitt in Leeds, right? Which kind of ties in to what you know,
what you thought, yes.
What you thought. Let's try and fill in some of his backstory.
That'd be good, yeah.
Right. So what we've got next is census records. Now, there's a few of them because census records are wonderful in that they tell us, they give us a snapshot of people at a point in time, and they give us really good information. And in particular, they give you relationship-based information, which is really handy. So this is the 1911 census. And in this record, we can clearly see Clara Pickering, their 3 children, Edward, Constance, and we know Constance is a bit of a theme.
Yes.
And Stanley Pickering. But there's no Thomas. We couldn't find Thomas Pickering in the 1911 census. He doesn't exist.
Right.
We couldn't find Harry Page, Thomas's alter ego, either.
No.
So maybe this is the point. Maybe this is around the time where he did step out of Thomas Pickering and became Harry Page. We don't know. What we do know is that shortly after that, he was in a relationship with your grandmother and they were having children. So I want to show you a photo now that was sent in to us by someone quite important in your story. This is a wedding photo of Edward Pickering, the son of Clara Levitt and Thomas Pickering, or Harry Page. And next to him is his mum, Clara Levitt Pickering. And no doubt, in the background,
Other relatives.
Exactly.
Yes.
Other relatives of yours, family.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at what the family tree looks like now. This is your grandmother here, Catherine Hall.
Yes.
She was living in a long-term committed relationship with Harry Page.
Yeah.
Now, he was originally Thomas Pickering. His first wife was Clara Levitt. They had 3 children. As we know, we saw that in the census. Edward Thomas Pickering, Constance Pickering, and Stanley Pickering, your half-aunts and half-uncles. We know Edward had a son, your cousin, Ted. And Ted was the one that sent us the photograph. And there he is.
Wow, it's my cousin.
That's your cousin, Ted.
Yeah.
Now, Ted really wanted to be here today, but he couldn't make it.
Yeah.
So he sent a letter. Hi, long-lost cousin. You sound to be the answer to a question that has been bugging me for years. Namely, where Thomas Pickering disappeared to around 1914. Looking forward very much to meeting you, to swap tales and pictures of the Pickering family. Hope the program goes well and that you get out of it what you're after without finding too many skeletons in the closet. Here's to the future. Kindest regards, Ted Pickering.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah.
So he had a suspicion, right? There was a family rumour that Thomas Pickering had gone up north. So, I mean, it's obviously an emotional experience.
I guess it's just always been on my mind, I think, really, for the last 30 years about the other family. And I just wanted to know, we had other family out there. My mum had brothers and sisters that she had never met, and we've got aunties and uncles and cousins that we never knew. And I always wanted to know what happened to them after he just left, you know, without looking out for them, and then starting a whole new family. And because it's family and it's still quite close, because my mother's father, so it still feels, I feel for her that she never got to know the whole story, really.
Liz, it's been a grand adventure, this story.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's quite emotional, actually. I was quite surprised at how emotional I felt. Because I've thought about this for years and years, and I always thought I was quite matter-of-fact about it. I surprised myself at how emotional I became when I found out.
Having arrived with only family fables, Elizabeth has not only acquired the facts behind her grandfather's true identity, but now has a new cousin to catch up with.
Well, We're at King's Western House in Bristol, a historic manor house in Somerset, where people from all over the UK have been gathering, eager to have their questions answered.
There's a steady flow of visitors here, all hoping that their stories from the past can be brought right up to date.
I am trying to trace my family tree, and I'm trying to trace it on my mother's side.
I'm trying to find out about my grandfather's father.
I've gone back as far as 1730, and I sort of stuck there.
On the hunt for those answers today are our experts, historian and writer Tessa Dunlop.
And then the fourth bomb goes down what's known as the smokestack. Boof, detonates in the engine room, and what happens next? It explodes.
And taking on our first case, DNA expert Brad Argent.
Theatre was hugely popular in the 19th century, with workers in the Industrial Revolution wanting to find some entertainment. Anne Macy's ancestors were right in the heart of the Victorian theatre world, but they also harboured a shameful family secret, and she's keen to find out more.
My name is Anne Macy. I live in Newport in South Wales. My great-grandmother was born Elizabeth Nathan. Her stage name was Bessie Nathan. She was an actress. She went all over the world acting. Bessie Nathan was an incredible woman. She began her acting career in 1874, and that was a time when women on the stage were considered perhaps one step above prostitutes. And she met this Irish actor, Charles Guilfoyle Seymour, and they married in 1879. She had 5 children. My grandmother was Margaret Annie, and my great-aunt was Harriet. Now, I found a newspaper item saying that 14-year-old Harriet had run away from home. And that was in 1894. There is nothing in the newspapers that says she came back. But in 1898, Bessie Hope is born. And suddenly, the whole family up sticks and leaves Manchester and moves to Newport. And they've got this new baby, Bessie Hope, who was registered by Charles Guilfoyle Seymour as his daughter. And I don't believe it. My theory is that Harriet ran off with an actor, and her mother put the notice in the newspaper to try and make her come back. But I don't think she did. Not straight away. And I think she went back home because she was pregnant with Bessie Hope. And her mother said, "Don't worry, we'll sort this out." And her mother decided that the only way to sort this was to bring Bessie Hope up as hers, as Harriet's sister, and to move away from where everybody knew them. If it's true, it's true. And if it's not true, I'll apologise.
There's my question. So, Anne, welcome. You've come here today to find out a little bit more about this handsome woman here.
This lady is Bessie Nathan, and she had, apparently, 5 children. But I believe that the youngest child wasn't hers. I believe that she was the daughter of my grandmother's sister. And I just want to find out if I'm right, basically.
So what do you know about Elizabeth or Bessie?
I know she was born in London in 1855. I know that she lied consistently about her age, that she married in 1879 in Liverpool, and she married an actor called Charles Guilfoyle Seymour. From then on, she was Bessie Nathan on stage. She was Bessie Guilfoyle. She was Bessie Seymour. She was Bessie Seymour Guilfoyle. And she lied about where she was born. She lied about how old she was. She was an actress. And as my Auntie Mew used to say, she went all over the world acting. And I don't think she could help herself, really.
You think she was an actor both on stage and off stage?
Oh, yes, totally.
So let's try and get a sense of what the family looks like. This is a family tree. So, Anne, here you are down the bottom. This is your grandmother, is that right? And then we can see right on the end here, we have Bessie. And you can see that gap between Harriet in 1880 and Bessie in 1896.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a what's going on.
Yes.
And Harriet runs away. Now, how old was Harriet when she ran away?
She was 14.
She was 14. She disappears for a couple of years, and then she comes back, and then Bessie appears on the scene. And here we have Bessie's birth record. And we can see here that she's definitely 1896. When Harriet ran away and when Bessie was born, they're very close.
Yes. And one of the things I've been trying to find out is the fact that Bessie Hope is born, she's registered in Chorlton, and they moved to Newport and opened a fancy goods bazaar.
Why do you think Harriet ran off?
She was appearing on the stage with her father and my grandmother, her sister. And I've got reviews as late as the end of November and early December 1894, when she's appearing in a play called The Way of the World, I think it was. And I think there was an actor. And I think he encouraged her and she ran off with him.
I wonder if her upbringing and, perhaps that she had quite an independent mother created in her a sense of independence and a strong sense of self, and she felt that it was quite okay for her to run off and do that.
I think if she was anything like her mother, she would have.
Yeah. So this document is the citizenship application for the daughter, Bessie Hope, or as she appears in the document, Holder, because she married an American soldier. And the link to America is really important because it's important for telling the story, right? And for getting to the truth as to where does Bessie fit in the family. And looking at your DNA and looking at the DNA of descendants of Bessie Hope in America, as your cousins, we're able to determine exactly where Bessie fits in the family. And Bessie Hope is definitely the daughter of Bessie Nathan.
She really is.
She really is.
But that's wonderful. So what was Harriet doing in those years then? No, that's fabulous. It's fabulous. It proves that it's right. That's good.
Bessie Nathan was telling the truth all along.
Excellent. That's brilliant.
Thank you so much for sharing this wonderful story and for bringing to life such a wonderful character. What a fantastic role model to have in your family.
She is the most amazing woman I've ever known. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you so much. I'm 3 inches off the ground and floating. I am just so excited. Because now I know. It's got to be more than 10 years that this question has been hanging over who she was, where she was in the generations. Because once you've had a thought, you can't get rid of it. And if you ever say it out loud, then that thought becomes, it becomes real. And finding the answer is important. Well, now I found the answer. It's been proved that Bessie Nathan had 5 children and that Bessie Hope was definitely her daughter. Marvellous. Really, really good.
Having arrived today thinking that her family kept a dark secret about Bessie Hope's real mother, Anne now leaves with DNA evidence proving that Bessie's mother was, in fact, the woman who raised her. Still to come, DNA expert Brad Argent looks at the fascinating life of a salty sea captain. Can he bring these descendants a new Fijian family?
It's beautiful, beautiful women. They're welcoming, he understands their culture. I cannot imagine him leading a monastic life in Fiji.
Historian Tessa Dunlop has stepped in to help Maureen Locke figure out one possible reason why her ancestor changed his name.
Who is that handsome man in your hand?
Yes, this is my grandfather, Ernest Locke. He's from Ireland.
Mm-hmm. And there's a conundrum, isn't there, surrounding his name?
Yes, that's correct. There's confusion because our family name is Locke, but at some point we believe he used Mullins, and we're a little bit confused of where that name came from.
Well, Maureen, we did extensive searches for an Ernest Locke, both in England and in Ireland, and we came up with very little. So we then decided to use the address you gave us. In Battersea, London.
Battersea, that's right.
And there we discovered he wasn't living alone. Ernest had company. He had Cornelius, who we think was his brother, and there were 2 Upshires. Margaret, married to Leopold Upshire. Now, when we tracked back Margaret Upshire, it transpires that she was born Margaret Locke.
Oh, I see.
Okay. And then we were able to connect Ernest with Margaret. They were siblings. His sister got married and was still living with him with her husband. I
see.
And so we have an Ernest Locke and a Margaret Locke, and it so happens their mother's maiden name was Mullins.
I see.
Which explains why Ernest later on used the name Mullins, because it was kicking around in his family already. It was his mother's maiden name.
That's right.
Now, the question, of course, is why did Ernest jettison the name Locke and use his mother's maiden name Mullins? Therein lies the enigma. Now, we can't definitively say why he did that. We can't go into a young man's mind all that time ago. But I can tell you that Ernest was no choir boy. We had a rake around in his past, I think all young men would prefer that we didn't rake around in their past. But if you change your name, you're begging for attention, to be honest. He was a teenager in the late 1890s, and he got on the wrong side of the law. We find him drawn up in front of a judge with 2 other lads of a similar age, I think he was 17, being thoroughly reprimanded for roughing up an Italian ice cream vendor, for beating him up quite brutally, in fact. This wasn't without precedent. Immigrants were increasingly unpopular, overcrowded parts of the East End and inner city areas of London. Italians had come in considerable numbers from the middle of the 19th century, almost from often poor mountainous areas. They were distinctly different in some cases. They were Catholic, they were quite noisy sometimes, they were a bit kind of unusual looking, yeah. Now, the judge saw 3 young lads, and he gives them a real telling off. And he says, if you must be violent, for God's sake, join the army. And I think later on we know that he did just that.
Yes, he did indeed.
So all good in the end, Ernest.
Maureen now knows that Ernest most likely changed his name from Locke to Mullins to distance himself from his youthful misdemeanours and took the judge's advice to join the army. Next, a sister and brother searching for the missing pieces in the life of their seafaring ancestor.
My name is Ian Lockerbie Gaskell. This is my sister Valerie Moore. And we're here, basically, to look into the life and times of William Lockerbie.
A very remarkable man named William Lockerbie.
Our great grandfather. William Lockerbie was an extraordinary man. He was a great adventurer. He came down to Liverpool and went to sea, and he ended up marooned on islands in the Pacific.
William wrote a journal when he was marooned on Fiji about all his escapades, the skirmishes with various islands and that. And in the introduction, it is mentioned that he married a Fijian princess. I would really like to find out if that actually did happen.
Our connections with the maritime history is very strong in terms of the shipbuilding side, but what really fascinates us, I think, is William. He ended up becoming a ship owner and a merchant. Really, I'd love to know more about that. How he made his fortune as a merchant.
So Val, Ian, welcome.
Hello. Pleased to be here.
So we're here today to learn a little bit more about the wonderful William Lockerbie. You're going to find out now just how wonderful he was. But first of all, let's set the scene a little bit. How are you connected to William Lockerbie? This is your family tree. We'll get right back to William Lockerbie, your 3 times great-grandfather, and we can see that it's through the Gaskell connection. So tell me about the Gaskells and the Lockerbies.
Richard Luke Gaskell was in the boat building business in Liverpool, and he was also in partnership with Lockerbie. Richard also married his daughter Jane.
Now, Lockerbie's shipping empire was huge.
I think we found 4 boats that he owned over the period from about 1821.
Here is the evidence, right, connecting the Gaskells and the Lockerbies. Richard Luke Gaskell and Jane Lockerbie. And the occupations, you can see the Gaskells, shipwright, and Lockerbie, merchant.
Yep.
And it was a particularly prosperous union because from that came an empire. These are ships that we found were owned and managed by William Lockerbie in the Lloyd's registers. Now, as you can see, there's more than a few.
I'll say there is. Wow.
He's a man of means. Now, this starts in 1823.
Yeah.
Right.
This is amazing.
There's a ship.
Yeah. Are you saying that he owned these ships?
Managed and owned. So he may have managed some of them, he may have owned some of them.
Wow.
But the story of William Lockerbie goes back to Fiji. There's a journal of William Lockerbie's, and it makes for absolutely fascinating reading. It was one of these things that I couldn't put down because every page there is this adventure. He does find himself marooned in Fiji.
He was left there by this ship, Jenny, an American ship, with 6 American sailors, and left to fend for himself.
Maybe he's stuck there, or maybe he chooses to stay there. It's a little bit uncertain. He finds himself in a position where he's captured by the natives, by one of the warring tribes. They negotiate with one of the tribes for release. And then collectively, they wage war on another tribe. Having the superior firepower, they are easily outnumbered. He's a bit of an entrepreneur and a bit of a player. And using his connections on the island, he manages to get 10 tons of sandalwood. And then on the 2nd of June in 1808, he boards a ship, the General Wellesley, and leaves Fiji. He had a bit of a thing for sandalwood.
He obviously made a lot of money.
Now, there's an interesting connection between, well, Lockerbie and pretty much everybody who was alive at that period, but the one I'm interested in is his connection with the tyrant
Captain Bligh.
The son of a Plymouth customs officer, William Bligh went to sea aged 7, quickly becoming a skilled seaman and navigator. By the age of 22, he was sailing under Captain Cook. Just 11 years later, he would captain his most notorious voyage. And it's a story that was immortalised in the film The Mutiny on the Bounty. It's 1789, and Bligh is sailing the Bounty, a naval vessel bound from Tahiti to the Caribbean. By then, his reputation was that of a man with a volatile temper, something that would see him thrown off his own ship. The Bounty's first mate, Christian Fletcher, led a mutiny which resulted in Bligh and a handful of his loyal seamen being cast adrift in a small boat with very meagre rations. 4,000 miles later, the highly skilled navigator Bligh would sail them to the safety of the Dutch East Indies. But when he returned to England, Bligh faced charges over losing his vessel. Although acquitted, his reputation never truly recovered, and by 1808 he suffered another mutiny of sorts, known as the Rum Rebellion. And it is at this very moment in Bligh's story that our protagonist William Lockerbie steps in.
What can you tell me about Lockerbie and Bligh?
Well, Lockerbie actually was sailing into Port Jackson, which is Sydney, known today, and he had his own little supply of rum. Captain Bligh had a bit of a regime, and he didn't like this sort of activity going on. His soldiers of the day who came in to inspect William Lockerbie's cargo tried to, I would call it a bribe. Can we have that for $1 a barrel? And he said, well, no, this is not right. So the journal more or less says, no, soldier, not going to do it. And this set the scene for not a good relationship. He damned Captain Bligh, and this didn't go down too well. So he was sentenced to 1 day's imprisonment. And he didn't actually stay in prison. He bought himself out for a couple of pounds. A few days later, the soldiers that were serving Captain Bligh, for some reason or other, imprisoned him and sent him back to England to serve trial for, I think, probably corruption. And I'd love to know a bit more about that.
So there is a wonderful quote in the journal. This is William Lockerbie's recollection of that event. I feel myself more than rewarded for the loss of my £20 in witnessing the downfall of the tyrant. It was a fine, calm evening, and I expended a whole box of candles in lighting the ship fore and aft as she lay directly opposite. So you have to remember at this time, Bligh was held prisoner in his own house. Right out the front of it was the ship of the man that he had tried to imprison, William Lockerbie. So what did Lockerbie do? He lit the candles and he just stood there and went, in your face, Bligh.
Yeah, celebration.
Cheeky. Yeah. And that, to me, is the mark of the man.
Of this guy, yeah.
He's cheeky.
Very.
He's arrogant.
Very.
Right. He's a little pushy, but he's got the actions to back it all up. And so there's one more thing I wanted to cover off, because when you reached out to us, you asked a question about what more did he do in Fiji? Because isn't there a rumour of a Fijian princess or something?
There is a rumour that he married a Fijian princess. And seeing as he was on such good terms with the chief, it's sort of quite feasible. And I just wondered if there was any descendants called Lockerbie in Fiji.
And this is where we have to move from, documentary evidence, of which there's clearly plenty, just to speculation and interpretation. I cannot imagine him leading a monastic life in Fiji. It's beautiful.
Beautiful women, yeah.
Beautiful women. They're welcoming, he understands their culture, he's accepted. So we've had a look at your DNA, right? And of course, there's no Fijian in your DNA, and there wouldn't be because you're descended from William Lockerbie's Jane Lockerbie. But did he have any children on the island? We don't know because the records just don't exist. But at some point in the future, and it could be tomorrow, or it could be next year, you could get a match in the database with somebody who has a reasonable amount of Polynesian DNA. And that will be the smoking gun evidence that you need to know whether or not William left a little present behind when he left Fiji.
That's very
Thank you both so much for coming today and for sharing with us this wonderful, wonderful story of William Lockerbie.
Thank you so much. I've learnt so much. Absolutely brilliant. No, loved every minute of it. I learned a few things more than I didn't know before. For example, the number of ships that he had a lot. Wow, that meant so much to me to see a little bit more history that I just didn't know. I thought he had 5 ships. No, it was more than that. Extremely proud to be part of that story. You know, a long way away, I know, in terms of time, but I like to think a little bit's rubbed off. Yeah, why not?
So Val and Ian leave, not only knowing that their swashbuckling ancestors' boat-owning empire was much bigger than they'd imagined, but that Fijian Sandalwood also made his fortune. Whether William Lockerbie had any children when he was on the island of Fiji, well, that question can only be answered in time. The sinking of HMT Lancastria in 1940 was Britain's worst maritime disaster. But because it happened quite near the beginning of the Second World War, the news was kept from the British public. Lorna Holder wants to know whether her ancestor was involved.
My name is Lorna Holder. I'm from Bicester, which is near Oxford. I wanted to find out more information about my ancestor, Donald Carroll. He is my grandfather's cousin. I went online, typed in his name. I just put the basic information that I sort of knew, and it came up with his name and mentioned the ship Lancastria, which was a ship that took a lot of the soldiers from Dunkirk. He died on that ship, apparently. I don't know anything about him or what he was doing. So I wanted to learn more about him and more information about maybe the Lancastria itself. I haven't been able to do much research on that side of things either.
Lorna, thanks so much for joining us.
That's okay.
Now, is your interest in one particular family member or in genealogy in general?
In one particular family member, Donald Carroll.
So we see Patrick there is your great-grandfather. We track and find his sister, Helen, and it's Helen's son, Donald. In other words, your great-grandfather's nephew. Clearly, the story attached to Donald Carroll is pretty spectacular for you to be carrying it today in the 21st century, 2018.
Yeah. He interests me.
OK, tell me more.
Because he apparently died on the Lancastria. It was a ship just out that tried to save the troops just after Dunkirk, but it didn't make it home.
Would it surprise you to hear it was, in fact, Britain's biggest maritime disaster?
I've possibly heard that it was quite big, but I don't know how big.
Because the ones that garner headlines, of course, the Titanic, the Lusitania also was another biggie during World War I. Both wiped out. But all those that drowned on the Titanic and those that died on the Lusitania, add those numbers together and you're not touching the number. They reckon that 4,000 perished on the Lancastria in 1940.
Okay.
She was a Cunard White Star liner, an ocean liner between the wars, and she was requisitioned as many ships were for the war effort.
and lost her RMS title. She became HMT, His Majesty's Trawler, slightly less glamorous, and it would have been a much less glamorous experience going on board her by 1940. A massive ocean liner which was there in the Loire estuary to take home all the British refugees, so civilian, military, embassy members. The question mark is, we're sitting here now, and I expect a lot of people watching, like you and me until relatively recently, haven't heard of this.
No.
Britain's biggest maritime disaster. There is a reason for that. It's all to do with timing. Wartime, of course, distorts. The great propaganda machine takes over. And we have a big deal happening at the beginning of June, and that is the Dunkirk retreat. We also have another big deal who's just come into power, and that was Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
OK, he's been a premier for, I think, scarcely a month. And he started on his great oratory mission. We've had the blood and toil speech. We've had, we're going to fight him on the beaches and on the landing craft. OK, we've had all that. People are hooked in. The morale needs to be lifted. We've got the boys out of France, but it's a retreat. OK?
Yeah.
We're on the back foot. And on the 16th of June, the day before the Lancastria sinks, Churchill gives arguably one of his most famous speeches. Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duties, and so bear ourselves that if the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say, of course it was men, men will still say, this was their finest hour. And what happens the next day?
Gets bombed.
The Nazis came very quickly, bombed 1, 2, 3 times. The ship starts to list in a matter of minutes, I think, in under half an hour. And then the fourth bomb goes down what's known as the smokestack, boof, detonates in the engine room. And what happens next?
It explodes and...
It explodes. You get over 1,000 tons of oil on the sea's surface. And you get more Nazi incendiaries, and then you have an inferno. So you have people, possibly like Donald, trying to jump, and they're jumping into flames. The ship goes down on the 17th of June. It doesn't come out until much later, the end of July. And I think it's leaked into the American and the Scottish press, of all places. And here we have, it's the 30th of July, 6 weeks later. And look at the tone of this, it's interesting. Lancastria, how they escaped. How survivors sunk by Nazi bombs off Saint-Nazaire were saved. So the positive note...
It started with the positive, not the bad.
They have. That's called wartime propaganda. And in fact, the second article from the Daily Herald, Tommies trapped in sinking Lancastria met death with song. What's that reminiscent of? The Titanic, the band will play on?
Yeah, because they're all playing, aren't they, as they're sinking, yeah.
So we're going to drip feed this into the media. It's going to get out there in the end, despite the censor. But hey, our boys are brave. Even when the Nazis are drowning them and blowing them up, they're singing. What is it?
Going.
Roll out the barrel. Yeah.
But when they weren't.
Oh, we don't know. We just have to hope it was quick.
Yeah.
Let's now find out if your great-grandfather's nephew was indeed one of those men and women who perished. Here is Donald Carroll's Territorial Army record of service. We know from this that he joined up on the 1st of December, 1939. He was born in 1919, so by 39, a 20-year-old man, fighting fit, perfect. OK, the British Army would have thought. And indeed, he was enrolled to the Royal Army Services Corps.
Okay.
So we know that from his army record. Let's now go to the second document that we have, because what you want to know is, did this man board the Cunard, the Lancastria? Here we have Donald Carroll, and I regret to say it is indeed a casualty card, as you suspected.
Yeah.
And you can actually see the Lancastria is named there. He was reported missing on the 5th of July, 1940. Okay, so about 3 weeks after the ship went down. Okay. So we know he was on board in an army capacity, and he was reported missing. So he died. And no one knew about this. It was totally covered up. I doubt his family knew. The press certainly didn't know. Can you imagine nowadays something like this happening? So how do you feel about this story and having the family rumour confirmed?
I'm glad we've got it confirmed, so we definitely know it was definitely that's how he died. It's obviously it's tragic. It's not nice to think that a family member has gone through that, and I dread to think what he had to go through. But I'm glad it's confirmed and we know.
So I'm really sorry about Donald, but in a way, from his watery grave, he's served to remind us all of this epic loss. And by Jove, they deserve to be remembered, huh?
Yeah, I definitely think people should know about it, people should be taught about it, and they should know their history.
Thanks so much.
No, thank you.
For sharing that story and bringing it to our attention.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I'm sad that my ancestor Donald had to go through that and died on that ship. Also, glad that we've kind of got it confirmed now that he definitely was there and that is how he died. It's a shame, I think, for the amount of people that died on that ship. You know, everyone knows about the Titanic, and there was a lot more people that died on the Lancaster, way more than the Titanic, and no one really knows about it. So I definitely feel people should know. It's affected a lot of people. But it's just a very big mixture of feelings, really. I'll definitely make sure that I tell the story of Donald Carroll, and my sons know about him, and my other family members, they now have confirmation, and I will make sure that they know about it. I'll definitely make sure that it's not forgotten in any way possible that I can.
Sad news, but after years of uncertainty, Lorna now has the confirmation she longed for. Her ancestor, Donald Carroll, was serving his country when he met his end on HMT Lancastria. Next up, who wouldn't like to have a connection to the royal family? Well, our next visitor, Beatrice Walter, thinks she might have just that, even though she was born in Germany.
I did a DNA test and I found that 26% of me is British, and I have no idea where it comes from, because I thought I was, well, more or less 100% German, Scandinavian, because my dad was tall and blonde and blue-eyed. I also found a couple of years ago a picture of Queen Victoria's youngest daughter, Princess Beatrice, and we do look alike. It's the eyes, the chin, the nose. Everybody who actually sees the pictures, they all say the same. And I do hope that there's some kind of connection, at least a little bit, to maybe the royal family, as everybody wishes.
Beatrice.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'm looking at Beatrice up there, and I'm looking at Beatrice in front of me, and you really look a lot like Princess Beatrice.
The same nose, eyes, chin. So it all kind of like fits.
One of the interesting things about the royal family is they're not actually British. As you well know, they are mostly German.
Yeah.
And Beatrice, her dad was German and her mother was half German. So Beatrice is probably about 75% German herself. She was the youngest of Queen Victoria's children. And when Albert died, Victoria looked to Beatrice, and she was her favourite as well. So there's a couple of ways that we can go down this path and look for a connection. There's the family tree, and there's the DNA.
Yeah.
So let's explore both of those parts.
Okay.
So let's have a little look at your DNA results. A big chunk of Eastern Europe, right?
Yeah.
Not really a surprise, going on what you know. 26, a quarter of you is Great Britain.
Yeah,
right.
Which is quite a big part for
it
not
is.
knowing where it comes from.
Well, it's bigger than the bit of you that's technically German.
Yeah.
And this is where it starts to get very interesting. When we start to look at ethnicity and how it plays out in our genes.
Yeah.
If you look at these maps, you can see the bright green, which is Great Britain. You can see it covers the good part of the island of England.
Yeah.
But you can see it also covers part
Central Europe.
of Central Europe, of France and of Germany. So it's not that unusual to see Germans or even French people with British DNA. But if we're trying to connect you to the royal family through your DNA, we're going to need to get a sample from the royal family.
Which won't happen.
So if you could help us out with that...
I try my best.
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
But we're not going to get access to that. Now, that said, it might not be the royal family. It might be somebody who's more remotely connected to them, but a known connection. And if you get a genetic match with that person, then that becomes very interesting. But I want to go back to your family tree. We're stepping back here, and as you can see, German, German,
Yeah, all
German,
of them.
German, German, German. It's all very German.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't gone back a long way, and it's challenging because, you know, access to family history records in Germany is somewhat restricted.
And very limited.
Yeah, and very limited.
Yeah. And destroyed during the war.
Yes, yes, indeed. Some of them were destroyed during the war. So we can see there's a strong connection with Germany, just like the royal family has a strong connection with Germany, okay? The fact that you're German probably increases the likelihood that you're related to the royal family than if you were British, because the royal family are not British.
No.
And so, whilst I can't conclusively say you are or you aren't connected, what I can say is right now, there's no evidence. But if you build that tree back, if we go up and back and out, if you can find a connection in your family to German aristocracy, that is your passport to the palace, right? And that's your connection back to your doppelganger.
Yeah, she is.
So weirdly, we're here in Britain and you have British DNA, but the answers to your question lie back in Germany because that's where the royals lie.
Yeah, so I try my best to find something.
Look, shake that tree. Who knows, a tiara might fall out.
Yeah, hopefully. It was fantastic to actually have that help. And we don't know whether there's connection with the Royal House of England, but I'm gonna do my digging now in Germany and hope I'm gonna find some royalty in Germany, which were connected to Queen Victoria and so on. I tried to find my tiara now in the German area and regions.
We're at King's Western House in Bristol, a historic manor house in Somerset, where people from all over the UK have been gathering, eager to have their questions answered. So many people have got in touch with us, hoping to get to the bottom of family mysteries.
Our surname is Ecott, and we've never met another Ecott. We don't know anything about the surname, so we're here today to try and find out a bit more.
The rumour is that my grandmother was a land girl who had a fling with a wealthy landowner, and my father was the result, and so he was adopted, and I'd like to find out more about the grandparents.
And giving them a helping hand are our team of genealogical and historical experts. Coming up, historian and law lecturer Onyeka Nubia will be investigating one woman's possible links to the chief inspector who tried to track down Jack the Ripper.
If you're connected to that family, you don't come from London at all.
Okay. And genealogist Brad Argent investigates one family's unusual surname.
Notice anything different?
Yeah.
Okay.
But first up, historian and writer Tessa Dunlop is here to help Mary Perkins and her husband Mark uncover the truth behind Mary's very secretive mother, Adelina.
My name is Mary Perkins. I'm a retired school teacher and I live in Herefordshire. For the last 30 years, I've been trying to get to the bottom of a puzzle, which is all about my mother. My mother died in 1987, and after she died, my father started to discover things about her that he hadn't known and we hadn't known. I turn right here. Dad started to sort through Mum's affairs, and one of the first things he found was this cut-off letterhead with an address and a phone number on it. So he rang the number, and the lady that answered said, oh, I'm sorry, very sorry to hear that Adeline's died. I'm Rosalind, I'm her sister. None of us knew my mother had a sister. So He arranged for us all to meet, and all the information we've since had about my mother has come from Rosalind. For example, that she was 6 years older than she had said she was. We don't know why. It transpires that my mother had been to university and got a languages degree. She could speak French, German, Italian and Spanish fluently. Clearly, that would imply that if Mum was good at languages, surely she must have been used in some way during the war? I don't know. My father worked in intelligence. My Aunt Rosalind was the PA to the Chief of Naval Intelligence during the war. So I would be absolutely thrilled to know if my mother also worked in that field. When Dad found out some of these things about Mum, he was very shocked, very upset. He felt like he'd never really known her. My father very sadly passed away in 2011 without ever really getting to the bottom of why Mum said what she did, or didn't say, as the case may be.
Oh, look, we're there, yes!
I'm sure Dad, he'd be absolutely thrilled if he were alive now to know what the answers were.
Mary, thank you so much for joining us. And you've brought your husband, Mark,
yes.
Also her accomplice in the maze. Thank you both for coming with the most extraordinary family conundrum, really, all centring around your late mother,
yes,
Adelina.
Yes.
It must have been quite a shock.
It was. It was a huge shock when my father told me what he discovered about the fact that Mum had a sister and that she had been to university. And it was like, is this the same person? Is this the Mum that I knew?
There was two sort of outstanding secrets there. One was this sister Rosalind, who you weren't aware of, and the other one was your mum saying she was 6 years younger.
Yes.
In fact, claiming, I think, her sister's birthday, the 1921 birthday.
Yes.
When, in fact, records prove she was born in November, December 1915.
Yes.
So mid-World War. What we've got here is your mother's college certificate. So she comes from Jarrow County Secondary School, so a humble school, which wouldn't expect its young girls to be going to university.
No, indeed.
That's extraordinary.
No, amazing.
And what happens, there seems to be, date of matriculation is 1932, registration 35, but she's not emerging with her honours degree until 1938.
Yes. If she was fluent in French and German, surely they would have made use of her during the war.
Well, the thinking was very joined up in the war, and certainly if you went to Oxford and Cambridge, there was a pull towards Bletchley Park, and there was a paucity of linguists, and of course all our young men were on the front. So Bletchley Park was predominantly manned by women, especially by the end of the war. Towards the end of the war, it was a majority of invariably young women. Bletchley Park was also known for its female civilians who were employed under the Foreign Office, so part of the civil service in a temporary capacity. They wouldn't have worn military uniform. My guess is that she will have been employed by the civil service during the war.
Yes.
She's not on Bletchley Park's record. She's not registered with any of the three military services.
No.
And I think, therefore, we can conclude she probably wasn't at the park
itself.
But we're not going to send you home entirely empty-handed, because we too, like you, were very interested with your mother's sort of obfuscation. Why had she blocked out this part of her life? And so we looked into her father, your grandfather, Andrew. He was born in 1865. We discovered that he was born in Newcastle. His father was a farm labourer.
Right.
Now, your suspicion was it not, that he had been married previously?
Yes.
Because he was a much older father to your mother.
Yes. And when we looked into it, we thought we discovered that they didn't actually get married till 1930.
OK.
Or 29, yeah.
29 or 30, and he died the following year.
And he was down on his marriage certificate, we thought, as a widower.
Yes.
Which is why we thought maybe he'd been married before.
Right, well, you were right to think that. He had indeed been married before. So here we have his marriage certificate. Andrew Patty, married to a woman called Elizabeth McWhirter. He's only 21 years old. He's a lad. He's a barman at the time. They had, in fact, 3 sons. Elizabeth and Andrew had... Firstborn, in fact, was Andrew Patty, a William and an Albert.
Right.
So these were, in fact, your mother's half-siblings.
Right. Oh, I never knew that.
You will see there is a fourth leg.
Yes.
On the family tree. And that is because your grandfather's first daughter was, in fact, a girl called Adelina. Adelina Patty, your mother's half-sister.
Right.
I'm afraid she didn't live beyond childhood.
Right, OK.
But that may, of course, have been the inspiration behind your mother's name.
Yes, it could well have been.
Now,
my goodness.
Things aren't always as simple as they seem.
Coming up, Tessa has revealed to Mary a family she never knew about. But there's even more to discover about Mary's mysterious mother.
The secrets we keep.
Oh, my goodness.
And eager to discover more about her family is someone who believes she may have a connection to the infamous Jack the Ripper murders in 19th century London.
Everybody's heard about Jack the Ripper and what he's done and all the ladies of the night that he murdered. My name's Christine and I'm a bus driver. I'd like to find out whether it's true or not that I'm actually related to Chief Inspector Aberline of the Jack the Ripper case. When I was about the age of 10 or 11, my mum told me that we was related to this man called Inspector Aberline, and he used to work at Scotland Yard, and he was in charge of the case of Jack the Ripper. And he had the same name as my nan. Her maiden name is Aberline, but no one's ever really looked into it or delved into it or shown any proof of it. And I'd like to really look into it more. As police officers go, I think he's really famous. He must be one of the most famous ever because, you know, who don't know about Jack the Ripper? Well, as far as I'm aware, there was about 5 or 6 ladies of the night killed around this area in London, and they never caught him. I would hope to clarify that Inspector Aberline is an ancestor. I'd like to be able to visit his grave and perhaps put some flowers on and just say, you have got family still here.
Well, welcome, Christine.
Thank you.
How do you feel?
Excited.
OK,
yeah,
great.
Yeah.
So, are you from the East End or...?
Not far from the East End, just the other side of the water.
OK. So, the thing about Chief Inspector Aberline is that he became famous even in his lifetime.
Yeah.
And that's why his picture is being drawn. It's not every Chief Inspector that gets a picture that's drawn.
No, I know, yeah.
So, his fame was known at the time. Inspector Aberline came from Blandford in Dorset.
Oh, OK.
So if he was connected, if you're connected to that family, you don't come from London at all.
Right.
You come from Dorset.
Do I?
On that side of your family.
Oh, OK.
We know that when he was young, he didn't have a trade. Then he became a clockmaker.
Really?
Yeah, clockmaker, yes. We know that his father was a saddler, working in dyeing leather and making leather work. So they didn't come from a very well-to-do family. They were a working-class family. And he moved to London, got a posting in London. In January 1863, he became a member of the police force. Within 10 years, he rose from the position of being an ordinary police constable to becoming an inspector at H Division in Whitechapel, East London.
Right.
Now, he spent 14 years then as a detective, and then he was promoted again to inspector. Now, the police force in the 19th century is not like it is now.
No.
Many people were suspicious of the idea of the police. So, murders, like the Jack the Ripper murder, made people realise the importance of the police.
Yeah, I suspect it would.
Yes. Do you know anything about the Jack the Ripper cases?
Well, I know that I think it was 5 ladies got murdered that they were sure of that was the Jack the Ripper because he named himself. And he actually sent letters to Inspector Aberline. He called him the boss.
Yes. So let's find out more about this infamous murderer.
Few mysteries have captured the public's imagination quite like the case of Jack the Ripper. In 1888, 5 prostitutes were brutally slain over a 3-month period, bringing fear and panic to the East End of London. At the time, it exposed life, crime and poverty in the slums of the East End. Newspapers enthralled their readers with graphic images and details. And this Victorian horror story has been the subject of thousands of books, movies, TV shows, and even songs ever since. Today, the infamous killer's identity remains unknown.
Good, so we need to sort of go back a bit, as it were, into your family tree and look at that. We can see on your family tree the name Aberline appearing.
Yes.
And then we can see further back names like Edward Aberline.
Yeah.
So your family is directly connected and is part of the Aberline family. We've just got to work out whether this Aberline family
is the same.
Yeah.
Christine eagerly waits to find out if there really is a link between hers and Inspector Aberline's family tree. And having already revealed to Mary her grandfather had another family...
So these were, in fact, your mother's half-siblings.
Right. Oh, I never knew that.
Historian Tessa Dunlop continues to uncover even more hidden family members.
So let's hold on to this idea. Okay. Elizabeth and Andrew having a first marriage with a degree of tragedy, but at the same time they achieve a family life of sorts.
Right.
And flick forward to your grandmother, who I think was called Margaret.
Yes.
Yeah. They did indeed get married. Here we have a list of marriages registered in 1929.
Yeah. Yes.
So just before he died, you're quite right. Yes. He did indeed marry. Yeah, we can see Patty there. Patty Andrew. Do you see below Alice? You can see Patty Andrew, and he's getting married in 1929.
Yeah.
So making good his wife Margaret, eventually, or his woman, as she was, not his wife.
Quite.
Yes. Now, this is quite something. 2 daughters, one born in 1915 and one born in 1921, out of wedlock.
Yes. Yes.
I think that old Margaret was putting a degree of pressure, don't you, on dying Andrew. Make me an honest woman.
Yes. Yeah. Do the right thing before you go.
There would have been a degree of stigma attached.
I think you're probably right, though. That would explain a lot, I think.
I think what I'm going to tell you next will explain even more. Because dear Andrew, your grandfather, was indeed at some point in his adult life a widower. But not for as long as you may think. His first wife, Elizabeth, died in 1897. He didn't marry your grandmother until 1929.
No.
The same year that his first wife dies and he is widowed, we find him marrying
somebody
again.
else. Oh, wow.
Andrew Patty is a busy boy.
He's a little devil, isn't he?
Here we have him married to Alice Park.
Ah.
The same year that he's burying his first wife, he's marrying a second.
Really?
By now he's 32, she's only 20. It was a union blessed with children.
Right.
If I may introduce you to your extended family.
Oh, my goodness me.
Alice Park had John James Patty, Esther Patty, and Florence Patty.
Oh, my goodness. So, yes.
And I
shocker, isn't it?
can confirm that in 1929, when Andrew, on his nearly deathbed, married Margaret, he was still married to Alice Park. He was a bigamist.
He was?
Dear.
Oh, he was a naughty boy.
Yeah.
No wonder your mum didn't want to talk about
the
family.
Quite, yeah. Poor old mum.
And I think that may explain, of course, why your mother decided to cut her losses and keep you and your father in the dark.
Yes.
It is a full and fecund family tree, is it not?
All these relations that I had no idea. Mum told me she was an only child.
The secrets we keep.
Oh, my goodness.
Does that make you more forgiving of your mother's secrecy?
Yes, it does. I mean, it explains a lot. I would never blame her for any of it because she was my mum and she was wonderful to me. But I can understand that she would have found this very difficult, a very difficult thing to talk about.
And also, don't forget the tissue of lies your mother has used to protect herself, really.
Yes.
So she's lied to your father about her age. She doesn't want to bring in a sister who might open that
game
can
away,
of worms,
yes.
so easier to keep her at bay.
Yes.
Anyway, by now, she's feeling socially detached from her humble origins in Jarrow, and she's got her own children to worry about.
Yes, indeed, yeah.
You know? So for much of your life, you believed your mother was an only child.
Yes, that's right.
You then discovered she had a full-blown sister.
Yes.
And we've now added to that 7 half-siblings.
Yes.
Old Andrew left a footprint behind, didn't he? That's for sure.
He did. Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Well, Mary, what did you make of that?
I don't know yet. There's a lot to take in, an awful lot to take in. All these relations I've suddenly got that I had no idea about.
Yeah. So many secrets.
Yes.
I mean, that family tree is quite disparate now, isn't it?
Much bigger than I ever thought it was. So, yeah, I think we'll start looking into these relations that I didn't know I had and see where we go with it. It's quite mind-boggling.
So we've revealed to Mary the family she never knew she had. And now she has plenty of work ahead of her, locating all the new members in her family tree. Coming up, can Brad answer one family's question about their strange surname?
Does this get us any closer to understanding what Tenniswood means?
But now, historian Onyeka Nubia is helping Christine Ball prove if she's related to the chief inspector who tried to catch Jack the Ripper.
Now, Inspector Aberline, Chief Inspector Aberline, his brother was Edward Aberline.
Yeah.
Edward Aberline was born in 1839. Frederick was born in 1843. And they both had the same parents, also another Edward.
Right.
Yes. So we're getting to a point now where we're looking at this Chief Inspector Aberline and we're seeing that there is a lot of similarities between his brothers, his father, and what's on your family tree. Almost as if they both match each other.
OK.
Yeah. So you really want to know now whether you are connected
Yeah, whether the bloodline is there.
to this man who did such great work, such great service.
Yeah.
Can you trace your line back?
Yeah, so Nan, her parents, so it'd make me great-great.
Niece.
I'll be his great-great-niece.
Yes. So I can reveal to you that this Chief Inspector Aberline is your ancestor.
So it's true. It's real.
It is real.
Oh, wow. It's real.
So in 1904, he retired, and he didn't pass away until December the 10th, 1929, in Holdenhurst Road in Bournemouth.
OK.
Now, in 2001, a blue plaque was created in Bournemouth. So at the time, they couldn't find any family.
Well, I'm here now.
Christine, because you weren't able to be at the unveiling of the blue plaque, we've created this replica to give to you today.
Wow. Oh, thank you. Oh, my God. Thank you so much.
So, Chief Inspector Aberline is your ancestor. He's your great-great-uncle.
Yeah, I know.
How does that make you feel?
Amazing. I'm very proud.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I was just amazed. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant.
So are you glad you came? Has it been worth it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Really worth it, yeah. No, I'm really pleased, and I thank everyone that's helped out to find out for me that, you know, it's real. It's true, yes. Got confirmation, and there's my proof.
There's your proof. Nothing can take that away from you.
No, they can't, no. No, I'm really glad, yeah.
Well done.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. Yeah, thank you.
Case closed, and what a result. So, our search through birth and death records has put together Christine's family tree and proved that Inspector Frederick Aberline is, in fact, Christine's great-great-uncle.
It was the Normans who first introduced surnames. Before that, people used to use personal names or nicknames. Then they began to use things like places of origin, fathers' names, and trades as hereditary surnames.
Jack Tenniswood and his mother Kate are eager to trace the origins of their unusual surname, and genealogist Brad Argent will use his expertise to shed light on where their name came from.
I think everyone who's even talked to me and mentioned me, oh, that's a strange name, that's a bit different. And it's hardly a Smith or, you know, one along those lines. So, like, this would be a clarification for myself and my family, like, you know, who I am, where I've come from.
Welcome, Kate, Jack.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
So, you're here today to find out about the name Tenniswood.
Mm-hmm.
I've not heard that surname before.
No.
It's a strange one, yeah.
Does it have anything to do with tennis?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Many people have asked me, where on earth did you get that name? And so I reply, my husband gave it to me.
I have no idea, so.
Well, that's all right. It's always nice when you can just sort of pass the blame on someone else. Yes. Surnames are fascinating things, right? So they do have quite a lot of power. But they're a reasonably recent invention in human history. Right. In fact, they actually only came into being when the government decided they needed to tax people. So in order to do that, they needed to know exactly who you were. Right. So the surname came along. But there's different ways of getting a surname, right? Locative, right, based on a location. Topographical, hill, as example. Lee is another good example of that. Nicknames, long, short, tall. And occupational, and that's probably the most common one, right? Things like Fletcher, right? Teacher, Smith, Cooper. Do you have any theories about the name Tenniswood and where that came from?
My grandfather maintained that there was a place called Tennis Hill up on the Scottish borders, in which there was woodland surrounding it back in the day. So, yeah, topographical.
Or it could be locative, right? Because, you know, Tenniswood could be a place.
Yeah,
so it's hard to pin it down. We've done a little bit of research as well on the surname, but the best way to find out is to actually just do the family history.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We've done quite a lot of family tree research, and I've got some very interesting stories to tell you, but they all lead us somewhere. So this is Arthur, right? Arthur Tenniswood. This is your grandfather. He's the one who has the location-based theory. Let's jump back a couple of generations. It's 1857 and Charles Isaac Tenniswood is born, right? Your great-great-grandfather. Do you know anything about him?
That's the first time I've seen his name.
So Charles had a couple of jobs. He was a coachman for a while. And then, if we have a look in the 1891 census, right? By 1891, he'd kind of gone from coachman to farrier. And do you know what a farrier is?
Horseshoe makers?
Exactly. So we're talking about this time when in London there were like 300,000 horses, and they all needed shoes. And so farriers just boomed, right? They were everywhere. And you can imagine the work of a farrier. Here he is. Not only does they have to work with molten metal and hot metal, they have to apply that hot metal to a horse's hoof. Very hard work. In fact, you actually see farrier often as a surname because it's an occupational surname. So you've got a really interesting history. So let's step back one more generation. William Tenniswood. Notice anything different?
Yes.
Suspicion of I've done that. So there's a change. There's a name change between the generations. So here we have the baptism record. And the baptism is for William Tennis with an I. And then when we find the death record, it's changed to Tennis. And so you're actually Tenniswood, not Tenniswood. Let's go back to your 5 times great-grandfather. Samuel Tenniswood. And we know quite a bit about Samuel. He was a courier. Not somebody who delivered packages, but someone who worked with leather in Soho. And he must have been doing okay because he went bankrupt. Now, Why do I say he was doing OK and went bankrupt? Because he had creditors, and people wouldn't necessarily have lent him money unless he was a man of some means, because they wanted to make sure they could get it back. But does this get us any closer to understanding what Tenniswood means? What was Arthur's theory? Again, just one more time, where did he think the name Tenniswood came from?
The Scottish borders. He maintained somewhere near Carlisle.
But we've gone back to your 5 times great-grandfather in Soho, in London. That's not that close.
No,
no, it's not.
So here we have the marriage of Samuel and Jane. And this tells us when they were married. And this allows us to jump onto the birth record in the parish. And you can see here on the birth record, Samuel, son of Robert, Tenniswood at Longtown, which is in Carlisle.
Oh.
OK.
So, all right, OK.
So Grandad was right.
He was a clever bloke, in all fairness,
So your dad passed away a couple of years ago.
He did, yeah.
And so did your granddad. How do you think they would feel about knowing that you now know?
I think he would be very proud, actually, that, you know, you've researched it further just to find the facts about all the stories that we've been told, yeah.
He's quite a historian himself, so he would have loved it. That's really interesting.
Thank you very much for coming along.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Cheers, thank you very much. I think the Tenniswoods have always been quite proud people. So I think being able to actually finally confirm where we're from, who we are, especially where the mystery of the second names actually come from, I think jubilations across the entirety of the Tenniswood clan is going to be adhered to, essentially.
Dad would have loved this. Yeah, he would. He would have loved this, yeah.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you.
So we've solved the mystery for Jack and Kate. Having traced back to Jack's 5 times great-grandfather, Brad has been able to confirm that the Tenniswood name stems from Tenningswood near Carlisle, proving Grandad was right all along. Coming up next, someone who needs help finding out the truth behind a family fable.
Up until the 19th century, slavery was widespread in the Caribbean, with many slaves involved in tobacco or sugar production. Phyllis Elliot's father was Jamaican, and he often told her tales of runaway slaves. She's here to discover what's fact and what's fable.
My name is Phyllis Elliot. I have 2 children, Gemma and Mitchell. I work at Canary Wharf for one of the big banks. And then you see Grandad in his favourite waistcoat jacket. Do you remember Grandad?
I see them in some pictures.
You see in the pictures. My dad is Michael Roper. You can very much see the similarities.
Yeah, they look exactly the same and they have it.
Oh, yeah. My dad always believed that he was 100% Jamaican, but just before my grandma passed away, she told us a story that may actually throw this all into doubt. The story all revolves around a woman, which in my eyes is a heroine. My great-great-great, and I'm not sure if I've gone as far back as I need to, my great-great-great-grandma, who came from Barbados, that managed to escape slavery and found herself in Jamaica. And she also managed to acquire some land in Jamaica on the outskirts of Kingston in Constant Springs. She fought her fight and managed to build a life for herself and her future family. To know that I come from such a heroic woman, I know for my dad, although he's now passed, it would mean the world to him. But for me, it would mean everything for my grandchildren also to know the history of where they come from.
Phyllis, it's great to meet you.
Yeah, you
too,
thank you.
You're here to find out about your ancestors.
Yes.
OK, and there's some important history that you have.
As far as I'm aware, I'm 100% Jamaican, but I've come today to find out about my great-great-great-grandmother who possibly escaped Barbados as a slave and made her way to Jamaica.
So this is a photograph of Michael Roper.
Absolutely.
Who's your father?
Who's my dad, yes.
Your father.
Yes.
And this is where the stories come from, about the ancestry being Bayesian, Barbadian.
Yes, so it would just really be interesting to find out where this has all really originated from. Is it possible that somebody could have escaped during that time? And if she did, then, you know, I'm glad to be a part of that.
OK, this is a map of the Caribbean. So the story that's been passed down to you from your grandmother is that you have an ancestor by the name of Felicity. Is that right?
Yes, we believe the name is Felicity. The name itself, I think, has kind of included myself, because obviously I'm Phyllis. And my grandma...
you're named after her?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's wonderful. So if it's true, then you've got a lot to live up to.
I definitely do.
Right, yeah. The difficulty is that to make a slave, to make a human being into a slave, you have to take away their name. See, name relates you to place, location, history, and ancestors. But to make a slave, you have to cut them off from their history. You do that by changing their name to the name of somebody else. So often in the Caribbean, all those people have is a first name. The last name, they don't have.
No.
And if they do have that last name, it's the name of their master. So a name like Phyllis Elliott is probably the name of a master called Mr. Elliott. And that's, I guess, why you want to find out this Felicity, because then that will at least give you a sense of history, a sense of self that has been taken away from you.
Yes.
So we began our challenge by trying to build on your family's background and then going backwards. So this is a photograph of your grandmother, Phyllis Reed, and her husband, Christopher Isaac. Let's trace the line of your grandmother.
Yes.
Because that's the line that we believe may lead to Felicity.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is a record, a family tree, your family tree. And we've gone back to your parents, and then tracing your father's line, going back to Phyllis, who you're named after. We have here the baptism record for Rabina, who is your great-grandmother.
Fantastic.
And we've also found on that same birth certificate her father. And his name was Alexander Sinclair. And your great-great-grandmother, whose name was Leonora White.
Wow. I've not heard that name before. Leonora White, wow.
So that's your direct family line or lineage.
I would never have been able to
But we still haven't got an answer, have we?
We haven't.
This is where it stops.
Right. No more records after that.
It stops there.
I wonder why it stops there.
The first thing is that slave owners tended to be quite methodical when they owned people in keeping records of those people, even if they only recorded them with the first name, because they were their property. So if they purchased somebody, they would like to know how much they purchased them for. Say, Thomas. Thomas was purchased for, I don't know, 9 pence or 9 crowns, however much it was. They would say, they'd write a ledger. Thomas purchased for £9. And they'd keep that ledger. When Thomas died, they write in the ledger, Thomas has died. So if we were looking for Thomas's record, the descendants of Thomas, we would find them. But if somebody makes themselves free, they disappear from the records because nobody becomes interested in them. If groups of people make themselves free, their history becomes folklore. We don't have, therefore, that detailed information. So ironically, those people that have been enslaved, those people that are following their master's tradition,
you'd have the record.
We have more records of those people.
So the likelihoods is the story is actually true?
Possibly. So people will tell you a theory about Jamaica, right, without knowing. They will tell you that the 1807 Abolition Act freed people of African descent who'd been enslaved. It's not true.
No.
That was an act that was only intended for people that were living effectively in Britain, and it was an act to appease public attention. Slavery continued. Then they will tell you that the 1833 Act freed people. It didn't, really, because in Jamaica, the white planter class still kept people of African descent in an impoverished position.
Yes.
However, there were some people of African descent in Jamaica who owned their own land.
Yes, yes.
There were people that broke away from their masters. There were people like the Maroons. So, Phyllis, this is a picture of the Maroons signing a peace treaty with the British during the 18th century. Now, the Maroons were groups of people of African Caribbean descent who freed themselves from British rule. But ironically, we have less records of those people than those who were enslaved.
Which is understandable.
So the fact that we haven't got the information that you want shouldn't make you feel any less proud. In fact, it might make you feel more proud.
Yeah, yeah.
We examined multiple sources, including 18th century listings, but none led to Felicity. So your story really comes to an end now.
Yeah.
All we could do after this moment, in terms of what you've asked us to find out about Felicity, is to speculate.
Right.
So we can speculate, for example, that your ancestors were not enslaved. Otherwise, there would probably be a record for them somewhere.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Right? And that could mean, for example, that they were Maroons. So that doesn't mean that the story of Felicity doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It just means that that information has not been gathered.
And to me, actually, I now do believe the story.
Right.
I absolutely do. I didn't before, but now we've gone back and you've explained things which I didn't quite understand. I do actually now believe that story, the fact that she did manage to escape, because that would never be recorded anywhere. Who would record that? And the only people that would record that is the family.
Yes, and they would record it exactly in the way in which you have in oral testimony.
Yeah.
They would record it in legend.
Yeah.
It would become legend, it would become folklore, it would become something passed down from mother to daughter, down the family line. That's how it would be remembered.
Yes, absolutely. And on the passing of my grandma, she made sure that she reminded my dad. And if she hadn't, I wouldn't have never have heard the story, and I wouldn't be sitting here today to find it out. And, you know, from what you're saying, I absolutely believe that story is a true story.
Thank you, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
I feel absolutely elated. I am so proud to know that, you know, this is where we come from, and in reality that all of the stories that have been told, you know, to find out the truth behind the story. And although it came to a little bit of an abrupt end, I do believe that abrupt end actually is the loudest part of the story altogether. So I am really proud of that, really proud of it.